Joe Rogan Podcast. Check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
It's live. Hello, Bridget.
I'm back.
What's happening?
I had a baby.
You had a fucking human.
I
You made a
know.
human in your body.
It's so crazy.
What does it feel like making a human, just living a normal life, being a human, to actually, what does that transition feel like? A man will never know, contrary to Twitter.
You can burn your 500 calories by breastfeeding, Joe.
I bet
for
you
your
can.
Sober October. That's what I learned.
Do you pump? Do you pump?
I do.
Or yeah.
I'm breastfeeding. No, I'm still breastfeeding. That's why she's here in Austin with me.
Do you
Left her
ever
at the
pump
hotel.
too, though? Do you pump as well?
Yeah.
The
yeah.
pump is wild.
The pump is wild.
My wife used to sit in front of the TV watching TV with a cup in each hand.
They've probably come a long way since then.
Have they?
Yeah, you can wear them and just go out now.
And it just makes
They have little cups. It's crazy.
little reservoirs.
Yeah, the one I have is I think it's called an Evie, and you can it's to go, all the stuff for
Do you have,
women
a
is
trough under that catches it. You
they're
sloshing around.
they're really cool, and you
Wow.
can just be on the go, so you're not chained to the pump like you used to be.
Can you hit a pause button
Yeah.
and unscrew it and put it in a freezer bag?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're advanced now. I mean, oh God, I've eaten so much humble pie, I think, since I became a mom. Because you have that, everyone's you'll understand when you're a parent, you'll understand when you have kids, and you're like, shut up. Because it's when you can't know until you know.
You can't know.
You can't know. That's why I think it's radicalized me too more in many respects. The stuff around kids in our culture right now, I'm a one single issue person now. I'm these kids can't know what they're doing.
You can't influence them that way.
No. And
it's
it's not informed consent because you can't know until you know.
Right.
Especially about having a kid. You can't know what it's like to breastfeed until you breastfeed. I'm sorry.
You can only guess.
You can guess. And I'm
Yeah.
sure someday they'll be able to simulate it and have but it's so, the whole pregnancy I had a lot of anxiety. I think I just was so worried about this little human. And I think as a woman, you carry that mostly yourself until the baby comes out. And then if you have a partner, you're sharing some of that, I hope they don't die with your partner.
Yeah.
And it was just I've been on this podcast and said I hate Instagram I don't even know how many times. I became Instagram addict in pregnancy because late at night, the wholesome third trimester content, I was this is what I'm here for.
What do
It's
you
so
mean?
relatable.
What's wholesome trimester?
Third trimester content, there's so much pregnancy content on Instagram because it's just an altar to all things basic, and it is. And when you're pregnant, you're yes, that's exactly how I feel. I can't see my vagina.
The algorithm
Yeah.
finds you because you look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with Instagram, and now I'm all on board.
Do you do TikTok?
No, I won't even put it on my phone.
Good for you. Yeah.
It's Chinese spyware.
It's Chinese spyware.
Why are we letting people put this on their phones?
It should be banned. And
I'm with Trump.
Yeah, but I'm saying this because I talked to security experts.
Yeah.
It's fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
Did you see the thing where, what is it called? ByteDance?
Yeah.
The parent company was specifically looking to use TikTok to target the location of specific American citizens.
Yeah.
Including probably Chinese dissidents or people that have left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've talked to people that are security experts, and they explain the whole system of how it works.
Yeah.
They have a super sophisticated system of infiltrating universities, and they bring because we have an open society, right? So because of our open society, they send basically employees of the Chinese government to come over here to get educated.
Yeah.
They get educated, and then they infiltrate universities, and they find out all of this research that's been going on in whatever category and whatever thing, and then they send all that stuff back to China.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild. we fuel their progress through innovation that takes place in America.
Well, not to mention that it's breaking the brains of all of our youth and turning them into
TikTok
pudding.
yeah.
TikTok. And not to mention that you have kids who now want to become TikTok stars instead of like going into STEM. You know, they're like, China's like, great, let's make all these young girls successful on TikTok and make it seem like a dream for all of the society that these kids can attain.
Well,
I want to be a TikTok star.
This is like OnlyFans designed by Russia?
I don't know.
Because like that is fucking up a lot of people.
It's funny being me, who was like always posting nudies online before OnlyFans existed, just for fun and for free. And now OnlyFans is this thing, and I haven't even I've never even been on it. I don't even know what's on there.
I was having a conversation about this with a friend of mine the other day, and he was saying like that he has friends that have girlfriends and wives that are on OnlyFans, and because they're making extraordinary amounts of money, like it's really hard to not do it anymore.
Right.
It's like if you're getting, we talked about this before, like the average person's not making much, but some of these gals that develop these big Instagram pages where they have like 1 million Instagram followers, they're making tens of thousands of dollars every month.
Right.
On OnlyFans, and so then they get in a relationship. And, it's a serious relationship, but, you're fingering yourself on this fucking platform for strangers. It's like, where does that end? And if you have a child, do you back off them? But, well, honey, we need money. I mean, it's no big deal. My fans are cool. They realize that I'm taken and I'm a mom. And, I am all for freedom, right? I'm all for you being able to do whatever you want to do. But everything comes with a price.
Of course.
And that thing comes with a weird price because you're selling intimacy. Like the photo is a woman alone in a bedroom.
Yeah.
Or a video is a woman alone in a bedroom with like ankle socks and a fucking, a jersey on with little baby underwear that she's pulling to the side. Like what is that? Like who's there? Like who's taking this photo? Like,
I mean,
are you pretending that this is for you? Like this, it's a weird little relationship that you have for these people that pay to subscribe.
I would be a full of shit hypocrite if I didn't address the fact that so I started posting nudes online for free.
Right.
And then people started demanding them. And I was just posting them because I thought it was funny, mostly because it made comedians mad on Twitter that I was using nudity to get followers. And I just thought it was hilarious because I'm like, I was like a trickster. I'm like, whatever.
But wait, who would get mad at that?
People were just getting mad that, like, not important people, just people were like, oh, this girl is like, I'm like, who cares? But it was funny to me, and it was amusing. And then people started demanding them, and then Patreon came around, and then you can have different levels on Patreon, and one of my levels was not like vagina pictures, but pictures of my boobs and my butt. And I was like, who wants to pay for 40-year-old titties? Like, no one.
Someone.
You could get them for free.
Yeah, but people
paid.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, and like you said, it gave me insight into this relationship because everybody's very respectful, first of all. And they were paying for my writing and all this other stuff. And it got weird, definitely, where I was like, what? I don't want to get addicted to the money doing this because I'm doing it for fun. Like, it was something that I started doing. I never wanted to feel like I had to do it. And I ended up I just shifted away from doing it. I just like naturally evolved out of it. But I was making pretty good money.
Yeah.
I still don't understand it, but it gave me a lot of insight. And I just I know that if I did not address this, people would be like, that girl used to send pictures of her butt on the internet.
Well, I'm glad you addressed it then. It's just a strange little outlet. And look, I'm all for people capitalizing and using, finding different ways to make money. That's not the issue that I have. I don't even have an issue with it. I'm all for you doing it. But I'm just saying, like, for a person that's in a relationship or a person that one day is going to be a mom or a person,
Yeah.
like, that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like,
How am I going to explain this?
Right.
I mean, it's out there.
well, I think you explain it by being yourself. Like, you're a good person. You'll be honest with your kid. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not even a bad thing.
I did it mostly because people started demanding them and getting entitled. And I was like, now you bastards are going to have to pay. And it was never something like, I'm going to do this if I don't want to. And then naturally, I grew up. I got into a relationship. And like, even my husband will get it online. People will be like, did you know your wife's boobs are online? He's like, they are? Like, of course he knows. And he knew that this was, and he never like pressured me not to, but I didn't want to anymore because like I said to my friend once, I was like, why are people paying for this? And he's like, there are a lot of lonely people in the world, Bridget. And
there are. There are also a lot of people that get obsessed with other people, right?
Yeah.
They read your writing. They like the way you think. They get kind of obsessed with your mind.
Yeah.
They pretend they're in a relationship with you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I had a lot of insight into it though. And it really, I mean, we were laughing hysterically about this the other day because an email came through and this guy was like, can Bridget please take some nice high resolution pictures of her butthole?
High resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Apparently that's a big request on the OnlyFans. They
Is
want
it?
butthole photos.
Oh, God. See,
Actual
I never.
butthole.
Part of the reason that I started putting nudes online is and I've written about this for Playboy, and I think it's like one of the few articles that's still up on Playboy of my 100 that were there. And it was why I get naked online or why I post nudes online. And part of it was I was like real early to sending nudies. I would take a picture with a digital camera, upload it to my computer, and then send them via email to guys. I mean, I was probably like 23 when the technology became, because I thought it was fun and flirty. And then I realized like, oh shit, this is out there. And I didn't want anybody to have like the power over me that they could hold that over my head ever. Even though I was a nobody, I don't know what I was thinking. But I didn't want anyone to be able to hold it over me. And so I just started, I mean, since like 2006, when I started my website, I was posting greeting cards that I made with nude pictures of mine on there.
There's nothing wrong with being nude. There's nothing wrong with posting pictures of nude. You said Playboy did they take some of your articles down?
Yes. And I had written, you posted one of my early pieces, actually, the women date assholes because you're a pussy. Still one of my favorite things I've ever written. And that's still up there. The one about getting nude is up there. But then I did, like, some of the work I did for them, I was very proud of. And I turned into more of a journalist working for them. My first editor, Joe Donatelli, I used to be like, I'm not a journalist, I'm an opinion writer. He's like, all good opinion writers are journalists. And I went to a Free the Nipple thing. This was kind of when things started evolving. And I was like, all about freeing the nipple. So I thought. And I was supposed to go cover this rally. And I get there, and this very young girl is like barely legal, like maybe turned 18 the day before the rally. And she's kind of running this Free the Nipple thing with a lot of her young friends on the beach in Santa Monica. And suddenly I went in being like, yeah, I'm going to be all for this. And then there was this pervert on the beach, and he was there with like a digital camera, which was my first red flag. And because this was, it was just creepy. And he was taking pictures of them. And all of a sudden I was like, put your clothes on, ladies. Like, there are perverts everywhere. Like, there's a pedophile over there.
So
changed suddenly I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Do you think it's just like girls that just want attention, but they don't know what that means?
These girls didn't. This girl, at least the one who was in charge, she was so interesting, and just like she was like a radical feminist, just a young radical feminist who was like, men can have their nipples out, why can't women?
Right.
And they can be free on the beach, why can't we? And so she was just I think pushing for more equality in her mind, and I understood that. You know, I don't think it was for her like about getting. She didn't strike me as that kind of person, at least when I met her, and it was just it was a very strange scene, and I left it. And I went back to my editor and I was like, I have no idea how I feel about this anymore. And he's like, good. That means you're a journalist. That's what journalists should do. Go in with maybe some feeling of how they think and gather information that might change their mind.
That is really journalism. And that is actually an important opinion piece because you went in with this one idea and then seeing the reality of the situation made you alter your perceptions.
Yeah. I mean, even having now being breastfeeding and being a mom and being somebody who's just been like my body was a vanity project, I was like, oh, this has utility.
Utility.
Like these things, they have a purpose.
It is kind of wild that that's the reason why we're attracted to them.
Yeah.
That we're attracted to them because of the fact that they have utility. And the women that have more traditionally sexually attractive bodies they're more likely to breed.
Yeah.
They're more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Fuckable? No,
I mean, you know what I'm saying? They're like viable.
Viable?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever word we use, it's going to be.
It's going to be a problem. But like the narrower hips, the narrow waist, the large hips. That's all so you could give babies better. You can give birth better.
Yeah.
It's weird how all that stuff works.
I don't have breeding hips. My child came out as writer and thinker and hilarious. Mary Harrington calls it. She came out of the sunroof.
That's imagine being a person without breeding hips that was born 100
you would have
years
died.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. Childbirth is still very dangerous. I was not one of those like, I'm going to have a pool and go have my baby in the moonlight all by myself with a doula and like that. I admire women who do that because they have some ability to just block out fear or something. It's just like I don't know. There are women who are just so good at the home births and
the home birth is weird because if something goes sideways, yeah.
I mean, it's terrifying to me.
Yeah, you want to be around people that have a lot of kids come out of vaginas on a weekly basis, and they're really good at it. And
I know so many women who have had home births and they were completely fine and they had their baby but I think I was really affected when I was in Dublin. I was in it was like a big grave cemetery and there were all these it was like a dead kid area, basically babies that died in childbirth from and there were just thousands of them. There's a whole portion of the cemetery devoted to this and a lot of the moms too died and a lot of the names were Bridget. My friend was like, is this making you uncomfortable? I'm like, no, I'm just another dead Bridget. It's like weirdly just like another soon-to-be dead Bridget.
It's that part of the world. That name's pretty popular.
Yeah. But it really struck me how far we've come in terms of making childbirth safe. And I think it's like a lot of things. The reason you think you don't need a measles vaccine is because we don't have the measles anymore and kids aren't dying of the measles. And the reason home births are probably rising in popularity is because people don't die in childbirth as often as they did.
Well, it's the same reason why people like reclaimed wood paneling on the walls. they want to like go back to the oldie days in their head.
Do you want to go back to the oldie days?
I just think the way it looks good.
It does look good.
But there's a thing about it. It's
totally.
like you're trying to pretend you live in a barn. You know?
Yeah, I mean...
It's like, I want organic everything, and I want, it's like there's this thing, I want hand-pressed butter. You know? I want hand-churned this, and it's, we have like this...
but I don't want to press it. I don't want to have to like actually churn it.
We have this like idealistic view of the past.
Yeah.
And of, natural, air quotes, things.
And there is something to be said for it, but it was very time consuming. People are getting like their churned butter like Postmated to them now.
But even like a natural birth in a bathtub, I'm like, listen, let's be real. when people first had babies, they shit them out in a cave floor. Okay, like the technology of a bathtub lend to safer births. Like, and you can take that one step further and go to the fucking hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the hospital.
Go to the hospital, please,
Yeah.
kids. Imagine doing.
I don't know. Some people, you're going to get a lot of pushback on that because there's a whole.
I know. There's a whole movement, a home birth movement.
And but when you actually, like, I went down the rabbit hole of the numbers, and when you look at the actual statistics, I'm like, do these people not look at the statistics? I think it's like 50% of them end up going to a hospital.
Yeah.
The ones, because so much can go wrong.
I think you first feel the vagina tear pain, and you're like, is there a way you can stop this from happening? Ring of fire?
That's what they call it. The ring of fire when the baby's crowning. Ooh. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And I there's so much pressure too, I think. Like, you're less of a woman if you, it's weird.
If you get the painkillers?
No, if you get the painkillers or if you get a cesarean.
Oh,
God. Because
really?
Yeah, there's like a lot of competition, I think, in the it's a weird, like, my birth was more natural than your birth out there, and I think there's a lot of pressure on women to try and have as natural as a birth as they possibly can. And many women go into with their birthing plan. My OBGYN laughed at me because I was like, my birthing plan is me and the baby live through the birth. Like, that's it. He's like, honestly, that's the best birthing plan to have. But so many people go in with a birthing plan is a thing now, and they go in and they're like, I don't want any drugs. And like in 4 hours, and they're like, give me the drugs. Give me the fucking drugs.
I don't think you could possibly imagine what that pain is like, I guess, until you experience it.
I have a lot of friends who have gone bareback with no painkiller. And just
rugged women.
Yeah, they actually, most of them are from the Midwest. Like, they're my friends from Minnesota.
They're hardy.
They're just badass in that way. I just know myself. I know my mom had 5 C-sections. So
wow, what is that like after the 5th one?
I don't even know.
What's that road look like?
They'll let you. Yeah, I don't know if they'll even let you do that anymore. I'm not sure.
Well, how would they stop you?
I don't know how they'd stop you, but
because you can't have vaginal birth after you have a C-section.
Well,
right?
you can. It's called a VBAC. It's a vaginal birth after cesarean, and so nowadays you can, and women often do.
When did that change?
Pretty recently, I think, and it was like a lot of the thinking around it changed. That you don't have to. It's one cesarean doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a cesarean. I think a lot of it depends on like how long ago you had your cesarean.
Whether it's all healed up.
Yeah.
How does your abdominal area feel? Does it feel like it got cut open?
Well, because they move the muscles.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some weakness. I've been just I started doing kind of like core rehab right away just because I knew it would go into my back carrying around the baby. And a lot of people I know have just back issues after cesareans. And it definitely feels like, especially like the lower abs, I have a harder time engaging them. And it feels weaker, obviously. It was 6 months ago. So and I have a scar. She was big. She was like almost 9 pounds. She came out like, wow.
9 pounds. That's a solid dumbbell. How much did you have? Like, if you look at your like the baby's 9 pounds, and then how much other stuff is in there? What's the weight of all the the placenta and everything?
Apparently my placenta was like abnormally big too. He was like, good job. The placenta was huge. And
does that mean you're healthy?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I'm 40. I had a baby at 43 years old. And I want to be clear.
That's the buzzer.
Yeah. I'm convinced it was like the last egg. I want to be very clear that it was a miracle, because I think people will hear my story and they'll be like, oh, I can wait. No, don't wait. Don't wait. Even if you get your eggs frozen, even if it's still so much harder the older you get, not to mention if you look at the numbers for chromosomal abnormalities, it all goes exponentially up the older you get.
And men need to know that it goes up for their sperm as well. It's not simply the woman's age. Like, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was 49. He was thinking about having a kid. He's like, oh, it's really more important that the girl's younger. I go, no, it's not. You need to read. Like there's issues when men are older and they start having children.
Yeah.
And as you get in your 50s and 60s, and there's guys out there having babies in their fucking 70s.
I know.
Look at Mick Jagger.
I know.
He shot a live one in there a couple of years ago.
I know. But he's Mick Jagger. He seems like he's pretty youthful.
Do you know he's the same age as Biden?
He's out there dancing and doing splits.
We saw him at CODA at the Circuit of the Americas here. The Stones were there.
It's crazy.
It was like a psychedelic experience. I was on drugs. I was sitting there watching. I can't believe they're there. That's really Mick Jagger. That's really Keith Richards.
They did sell their souls to the devil.
Well, they're old as fuck. I mean, they look 79.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just knowing the history of the Rolling Stones
So
and
crazy.
what they've gone through, and to see them out there still touring. He works out every day. He has 2 trailers that are just his workout equipment.
Have you ever seen the Rolling Stone art exhibit that was going around? I think maybe I don't know. I feel like it was 2016. It was in London. Then it came to the States. It's amazing. It takes you through their whole history. And those guys were selling out stadiums in the 70s.
Yeah.
I think
50 fucking years ago.
Who is it that has Mulaney? I think has that great bit about Mick Jagger and he talks about just how can you be normal? I mean, I love your stadium videos, and I was like, how are you normal after that? But how are you normal if you're Mick Jagger?
I don't know.
50 years of that.
But I think that becomes your normal.
Well, of course, like anything.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like Mick Jagger was in Austin. He went to bars and shit
Yeah.
and played pool and was eating pizza.
Amazing.
It's like out there doing normal shit.
He's so
Took photos, put it on his Instagram. I'm here at the pub. Like he's just like going out.
He has so much vitality, though.
Yeah.
He really is. I mean, I understand him having a shooting a live one out at 70 because he seems virile to me. He's got that kind of.
Look at that.
It's insane.
Look at that. That's insane.
I
That's
saw
a
them when
crowd.
I was in high school, which was over 20 years ago, and they were old then.
That's in 75.
Yeah.
So that is, where is that? In Cleveland? Is that what it said, Jamie?
Yeah, Cleveland.
What is the arena? It's like a baseball.
I mean, that's where the Indians and the Browns played back then.
Look how many fucking people are in the crowd. Look at the floor.
I know.
Just the floor. It's ants. That's got to be 100,000 people, right?
That's crazy.
Doesn't that look like 100,000 people? And that's
Yeah.
in 75.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
And every 20 years he upgrades and gets a new wife.
That's what you can do when you're Mick Jagger.
Oh, we've had a good run. Yeah, look at that fucking crowd.
no,
81.
it's crazy. And they're still so good.
Yeah. Oh, the show they put on was phenomenal. It
Yeah.
was phenomenal.
I'm sure.
And then we hung out with Roger Waters. Like Roger Waters came, and then we saw him in Austin. Holy shit, is his show good?
Yeah.
It was absolutely the best live show I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible.
What made it the best live show?
The visuals
Oh,
that
okay.
go with the performance. He has these enormous screens. And he's the only guy I've ever seen that can successfully integrate a real message in with his music that coincides with the music. It enhances the experience. You don't feel like you're getting preached to, because that is really who that man is.
Right.
And his songs, these brilliant songs that, span decades, he sings them and has this band play them while these immense visuals. And I was told that it was the largest, heaviest stage set in the world.
Wow.
It's insane. Do you have photos from that?
Wow.
It's fucking wild when you see the visuals. And Roger Waters, after every show, gets a flash drive and he eats, and then he goes back to his room. He puts the flash drive in his computer. He watches the performance and he tweaks it.
Wow.
He changes the words. He changes the visuals. So those are all screens,
Wow.
all across the top of it, and it's like a plus sign,
Yeah.
and so all around it are screens. So everywhere you are, you see these immense screens that have these visuals that go with like Comfortably Numb
Wow.
and whatever song they're playing, Wish You Were Here. It's fucking amazing.
I thought it would just be like the Wizard of Oz playing.
He says that's just total cosmic coincidence.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? That the Dark Side of the Moon, like if you sync it up with the Wizard of Oz, you would swear that it was designed that way, but it's not. It's just a
Yeah.
cosmic coincidence.
I grew up listening to this. God, I would just get so stoned.
Yeah, if you went to see that, you'd feel like you were stoned, even if you were sober.
Yeah, that's like Tool. Have you ever been to a Tool show?
No, I haven't.
They have amazing visuals on their shows. I mean, it's crazy.
I had Maynard on Monday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a trip. He is such a trip. He's such a unique guy.
Yeah.
He came in 2.5 hours before the podcast and did jiu-jitsu.
Oh, cool.
So he came in, we brought John Donaher, who's like the best jiu-jitsu instructor in the world, who lives here in Austin, and they went over the final points of triangle chokes
Oh, wow.
in my gym while we were waiting to go do a podcast.
That's so cool. I have to listen to that one. Yeah, that was one of the trippiest, most amazing visual. I still remember that show. It just like blew my mind what they were doing visually.
Well, he's an artist.
Yeah.
He's a guy that like goes over every detail of everything, and
Yep. I think music is so transcendent.
It is.
It's of all the arts. I love all of the arts, and F all of these kids who are gluing themselves to frickin' classic art pieces.
Yeah, well, they're gluing themselves to the wall and throwing soup on the plastic.
Someone glued themselves to the actual painting the other day. The
Another
girl
one?
with the pearl earring. Yeah.
Wait, where was this?
Where is that painting? I just was reading about it on the way over
They
here.
should start hacking arms off. That would stop that.
I was like, get Mo, all of them.
Just put a tourniquet around their forearm. Climate protester glues his head to girl with a pearl earring
Oh yeah,
painting.
The Hague. That's what I thought. Okay, yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean,
He glued his head to the painting.
and I'm not sure if this is true, so maybe fact check me on this, Jamie. But I also heard that somebody who's funding all of these is one of the grandchildren of the Gettys, which makes it even more hilarious if this is true.
Oh, who knows how much funding is involved in crazy glue.
That's an oil family.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's
just
crazy
so
glue.
funny. No, I know.
I mean, but how much funding is
But
involved?
they're climate activists, all these people. So it's just
Getty oil fortune heiress helped fund climate activists who have target artworks in museums.
it's hilarious to me. Like, you are rich because of oil.
She looks like the type of person who'd fund that. She looks angry. Doesn't she? She's
Maybe
smiling.
she was angry to be born to into
Does
such
she have a
wealth.
biohazard tattoo on her left arm? Oh, Christ. It does say biohazard. Oh, my God. There's just something. You see what they did at the Porsche Museum?
Where they were like mad that they didn't get buckets to poop in.
No, they glued themselves to the floors,
Yeah.
and the Porsche people just shut the lights off and left the place. Fuck off.
I thought one of the guys was mad. Maybe this was another place.
No, they couldn't go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
They wanted somewhere to go to the
Where
bathroom.
they're supposed
Look at that. Glue themselves to the Porsche Museum, but needed to go potty. Staff simply left, turning off heat and lights rather than calling the police. Good for you. Good for you, Porsche. It's so fucking dumb. It's like we keep starting the conversation. Like the conversation's already happening.
We shouldn't even be giving them attention,
Yeah.
honestly.
No, it's a symbol of this TikTok generation.
Yeah.
It's a symptom of all this nonsense that you're seeing constantly online. These people, they're trying to get attention with the least amount of work possible.
Yeah. I'm like, go clean up a beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do something productive. If you care about the climate, I'm always screaming about this. Like, organize an international clean up the beach day. Take pictures of all the garbage that you collect
Yeah.
all over the world. Post TikToks about it. I can be an activist. But do something.
Yeah.
It would be moving to see how much garbage is on the beach.
The girls who threw the soup at the Van Gogh, they went on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, and he's a brilliant guy. And he asked them, "May I ask what your pronouns are?" And she said her pronouns are she, he, they.
I don't understand.
You don't have to. That's perfect. It's perfect. That's nonsense.
I don't understand.
You're she, he, and you're a they. So you're plural. You're masculine and you're feminine. You're basically a god.
I don't get it though.
Fucking, you don't have to get it. They're
I don't
20-year-old kids.
get it.
They just want attention, and they're so happy they're getting attention because they think they're fixing the world by gluing themselves to the wall.
I would agree, except it's all been institutionalized. Like, people have to put this in their corporate, emails that they're sending to you. They have to, like, there's policy being written in Europe about energy because of Greta. It's not like, oh, look at these crazy kids and their crazy ideas, and it's somehow being captured by they're capturing institutions.
Well, it's the thing du jour, right? It's the thing that
Current
people are
thingism?
yeah, it's the thing that people are told they have to concentrate on now.
But there's still policies and stuff that are
Yes.
So
yes.
it's still having real life ramifications. It's not like we're like, oh, those crazy kids.
It is having real life, but it also there's overcorrections and then there's balances, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a guy that I'm going to talk to that is covering cobalt mining, and cobalt mining is horrific.
I know.
It is horrific, and it is in all of our electronics. It's like one of the things that I've been saying about all these people that are tweeting about injustices on the world. They're doing it on a phone that was made by slaves.
Yeah.
Like if you go down as far as you can go to find what's the source of the stuff that is in the phone that makes it work. It's sourced by slavery.
All these electric vehicle batteries too.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we going to do with all the technological waste? What do we just take computers and what do you do with your old computer?
Well, what do you do with all? There's a lot to do. Like I would imagine that this is an opportunity for someone to innovate and come up with a way to recycle that stuff and use it in a way. But then I was reading about recycling the other day. I went down a rabbit hole the other day because I was reading about birds that are swallowing like bottle caps and stuff like that.
Okay,
it's a giant issue.
Yeah.
And so then I went on a rabbit hole of seagulls and what cunt seagulls are.
Yeah.
And seagulls swallowing rabbits and swallowing other birds. It's like seagulls are monsters.
No, they are.
They're fucking monsters.
A seagull on the beach out east swept down and took my cousin's sandwich out of her hand while she was eating it. This is a true story.
That's little. They'll eat your kid. If your kid was small enough, they'd swallow your kid. I mean, they're literal opportunist monsters.
Yeah.
The worst is pelicans. Pelicans swallow seagulls. They swoop down. They take a whole seagull.
They look like dinosaurs.
They are dinosaurs.
Yeah.
They are.
Whenever you're on the beach and you see them flying by, they look like pterodactyls, like little ones.
Yeah, they're spooky animals, but they're also awesome. So then I went down this rabbit hole of recycling, and do you know that it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5% of plastic gets recycled, even though you say recycled?
Yeah.
Like you put it in a recyclable bin. How much actually gets recycled? Very, very little of it.
One of the first articles I ever read in the New York Times Magazine back when it was good. I was in high school, and there was a whole article about how recycling is basically bullshit.
Yeah, it's basically bullshit. It could work, but it doesn't work. It could work if you could get all the plastic, and there was some sort of a financially feasible way to gather it all up and process it and reuse it. It can be done.
Right.
I mean, there's that project that they're doing with the Pacific Garbage Patch where they're scooping up all that stuff and they're converting it into plastic that they use for items. Like you can buy eyeglasses that were made, the plastic frames and everything were made with the recycled plastic. So
it's crazy.
Which is cool that they're doing that. And then there's a way to make it financially viable. But overall, most of the plastic, single-use plastic, like bottles, water bottles and stuff like that, it's not being recycled. Yeah, we stopped using water bottles here. We have a water filter now, and then we have these steel cups. And I'm contributing, man.
I'm glad.
But meanwhile, I drove an electric car. And, and that's not providing, it's not putting out bad emissions, but it's like, where's the batteries coming from?
I always think of Thomas Sowell and his famous quote, there aren't solutions, there are trade-offs. And if you start evaluating everything from that perspective, you can, I feel like, get to more helpful solutions when you know that you're evaluating the trade-offs.
Yeah. No, Thomas Sowell is brilliant.
Yeah.
He really is brilliant.
But I just apply that, to life often, where it's like okay, we're trying to make a decision.
Sure.
And there's going to be some trade-offs.
But people don't like trade-offs, right? They like binary things. This is good, this is bad. You know, it's like abortion is the perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. It is one of those, what I call, it's a messy human issue. Like, I am 100% in favor of a woman's right to choose. However, when you get to like late term, it gets real weird. It gets very like Bill Burr has a fucking amazing bit about it.
It's brilliant.
It's an amazing bit.
Bill is brilliant.
That's the best bit on abortion I've ever seen. Yeah, it's such a good bit, and it's highlighting exactly what it is. It's like it's a complex issue, and like Soul says, there's trade-offs. It's not as simple as like you should be able to do this, and no one should tell you to do that. Yes, you're right, but what about this thing?
Roe v. Wade changed the day. I had this woman, Ines Stepman, on my podcast, and she's brilliant and she's a lawyer, so she has a legal mind. And she and I had a really interesting discussion about it. And she said, if this is morally complex, this issue, and if you're not kind of confused and torn about it, you're not really thinking deeply about it. And I do think with the late-term abortions, it's usually horrific instances when it's usually like, it's a very small percentage, and it's usually something horrible and tragic.
Yes,
like the mom doesn't.
Usually.
I need somebody, because whenever people say, no, people are doing this in the 9th month, I'm like, okay, I need an example of somebody doing this before I'm just like, oh my God, people are making this decision. But I always thought I had Chris Williamson on my podcast, and he asked me if my views on abortion had changed since I had a kid. But I think my views had been changing kind of prior. Not changing necessarily, but I always thought it was 3 months. Growing up, I don't know why I thought this. I thought it was 3 months, and then I learned pretty late, it's embarrassing, that it was like 5 months in a lot of places, and some places, no limits. And I'm definitely squishy about that.
I had a friend in New York, and he was kind of fucked up. He was just a mess, like a lot of mental health issues, and he was all over the place. He could never get his life together. He was like really depressed, and was like always like falling apart and trying to get himself back together again, and just always a mess. And his girlfriend got pregnant, and she was pretty far along, and he convinced her to get an abortion. It was when you can get a late-term abortion. I mean, she was pregnant. I mean, she was showing, I don't know how many months, but it was quite a few months, and she was horrified by it. She didn't want to do it, and he kind of forced her into doing it or talked her into doing it. And then later they wound up having kids, which is even crazier. Right?
Wow,
It's wild because this was in the 90s, early 90s. I don't know what the laws were then or what you were allowed to do or not allowed to do, but he was just so fucked up at the time. I mean, I think he's better now, but he had a really bad childhood, like physically abused, and he was just a mess, and he just didn't want to deal with the responsibility, and he didn't think he could deal with it, and but then again, like, should you?
So you're pro-choice.
I'm 100% pro-choice, but I'm also aware that there's people like that.
Yeah.
Where that is the rarity, right? I'm not saying it's the norm. I'm not saying there's a bunch of people that are hoping
they're
that
like, don't want to do this. No.
I'm 100% pro-choice. First of all, I am a man, and I do not think that it is my right to tell anyone what they can and can't do with their body.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's clear at what point in time it becomes morally reprehensible. But there becomes a time where it is.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like it's different for everyone.
Yes.
Because I understand the pro-life argument. I completely,
I do too.
If you believe it starts at conception and in that bit, you're kind of interrupting a process that would take place naturally, I understand. I feel like I've become, I guess, and I think, honestly, most Americans are pretty squishy on it. Like, in the first 3 months, they're like, okay, because so much goes wrong anyway. It's why people don't even talk about being pregnant a lot of the time for the first trimester. Right. But then after that, the support for it drastically goes down. So his viability goes up on all of the polls. The support for the abortion kind of goes down because it's. I think now they're keeping babies alive that are like 21 weeks. I think is the youngest. I'm not 100%. I know that that's like 5 months.
Yeah.
I mean, it was weird. The abortion ban in Texas, the 6-week heart ban, came down when I was 6 weeks pregnant and heard my daughter's heartbeat. And
what was your thoughts?
it was fucked up. It was definitely like a weird mind fuck
Right.
where I was like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. It's fucked up. You know what else is fucked up? You know, we've talked about this before, but there was when abortion was first made legal in this country or readily available, there was a direct correlation 18 years later with a decrease in violent crime. You know, and Malcolm Gladwell's talked about this.
And Freakonomics, I think, did something about this too.
Yeah.
Those guys. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where it's like, should you force people to have a child?
Well,
and then, you know, what are you doing when you're doing that? Like, is that detrimental to society? Is it detrimental to those people's lives? You know, and then here's the big one for me. Like, when people say that you should never get an abortion, what about those instances where the woman's life is in danger?
Yeah. No, I hate that.
That is crazy.
Or like incest and rape.
Right,
like
right,
you're gonna
right.
force somebody to do this. That seems cruel too. And this is what Ines and I were talking about was like there's two. You know, you're balancing the liberty of the mother versus the life of this unborn child. It's not. It's messy.
It's messy.
It's really messy.
It is messy.
And it's definitely, she believes like kicking it down to the states is a victory for federalism. She's like, this should always be, you know, if there's a state where, because many women are pro-life. If there's a state where people are voting for this and that's what the people want in their state versus another state, then that should be that is the will of the people in that state, which she thinks is a win for democracy.
But it is a fascinating thing that we're doing here, this experiment in self-democracy, or self-government, where you do have options, where there's different states that do have different laws that apply to almost everything, that applies to drugs, that applies to, you know, so many different things you can do and not do. Like, for the longest time, Montana didn't have a speed limit.
Yeah.
They're like, who gives a fuck? Just
It's Montana.
Yeah, but they had to. I think federally they had to change it at one point in time to get funding.
Yeah.
But I remember that a friend of mine used to register his cars in Montana. Like because there's like, I think if you buy land in Montana, you could just like register cars out there, and you know they're basically, you could do wild shit out there.
You saw a lot of people move with their feet in the pandemic.
100%.
I mean, like
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had the option. You were
Yeah.
like, I don't like what's happening with the policies and mandates, not even voted on here, and I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And lots of people did that.
Well, I'm not a big believer that things always get better. I'm a optimist, but I'm also a realist, and I'm you know, I grew up kind of without a lot of stability.
I think we're very similar. In
Yeah,
this
so
respect.
I see danger coming, and I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Well, you guys
Yeah.
can stay if you want. I hear wolves.
Yeah.
And some people are like, wolves are my friend. I'm like, listen.
Excuse me, they identify as.
Yeah, I think it's great that we have these options as opposed to a place like Australia where you were fucked. Like you had to obey the law of the land, and now we're finding out that law of the land was based on bullshit.
Canada.
Yeah, Canada was the worst.
Still.
You know, and did you see that woman from Alberta that is she's a politician, and she's talking about the deal that they made with the World Economic Forum? She's like, what the fuck are we doing with the World Economic? Why are we doing that? I want to get out of that.
Yeah, all that stuff seems so crazy to me. A lot of it. But it is such a blessing in this country that you're able to to see that. I think that I was just talking with a driver on the way over here about how like some things are so instinctually ingrained in us. And during the pandemic and unrest, people were like, I need land.
Yeah.
Land.
I need land, and I need to grow my own food.
Yeah, and bread.
Yeah.
Everybody was making bread.
Yeah.
This is some like ancient shit that gets triggered. You're like, I need land and bread and food and dig my well deeper so that I have water.
Yeah. Duncan sent me a photograph during the pandemic of the meat aisle at the supermarket that he goes to
Yeah.
in like Silver Lake, and there was nothing in
Yeah.
it. There was nothing in it except like vegan meat.
Yeah.
There's stacks of vegan meat, but
My husband was working at Trader Joe's through the whole pandemic almost, and he would send me pictures, and he was like, "This is a really good experiment in what we shouldn't be stocking at Trader Joe's anymore." Because it was just like the things that were left over, like chocolate hummus. I didn't even know they had it. I don't think they do anymore.
well, people they buy that stuff because they think it's healthy, and they're being hoodwinked. That shit is the seed oils is what's in that stuff. Seed oils are some of the worst fucking things your body can consume.
And what?
Seed oils in those vegan patties and vegan beef and all. There's so many products that have seed oils in them, and there's another rabbit hole I've been going down lately about
Jesus.
seed oils. Paul Saladino sent me something that there's some sort of here. I'll send it to you, Jamie, so we could parse through this. But there's some sort of a correlation between seed oils and macular degeneration. Look, it causes inflammation, and inflammation is fucking terrible for you no matter what. And they're not designed. They were initially made, and this is something that we Max. How do you say his last name? Lugaver. How do you say it?
Like
That's
even
what I would say, yeah.
sunflower seed oil?
Sunflower seeds terrible for you.
But don't they use this like in other cultures all over the world?
Yeah, it's terrible for you. All that stuff was initially invented as industrial oil to like lubricate machines. Like a grapeseed oil, fucking terrible for you. All that stuff is terrible for you. Here, dietary fatty acids, macular degeneration. Here, I'll send this to you, Jamie. Is your thing on? Your airdrop on? There it is. They're not designed for human consumption. Like for you to be able to get oil out of grape seeds, there's this horrible process. Like it was like, okay, we have these leftover seeds. What should we do with them? And like, oh, well, we can take them through this crazy process and extract oil from them. But you have to run through this ridiculous chemical process to take the smell out of them, and then. Here it is.
I know nothing about this.
It's not good. All that stuff's not good for you. Like, what's good for you is olive oil.
I
Olive oil
use
is great
olive
for
oil
you.
and avocado oil.
Great for you. Good stuff.
Love it.
Dietary fatty acids and the 10-year incidence of age-related macular degeneration. So the objective was to assess the relationship between baseline dietary fatty acids and 10-year incident age-related macular degeneration. And after adjusting for age, sex, and smoking, one serving of fish per week was associated with reduced risk of incident early AMD, primarily among patients with less than median linoleic acid consumption, finding similar intake of long-chain 3 polyunsaturated fatty acids. 1 to 2 servings of nuts per week was associated with a reduced risk of incident and AMD, projective associations between the intake of nuts and the reduced risk of pigmentary abnormalities we're seeing among non-smokers, participants with less than the median ratio of serum total to high-density lipoprotein cholesterol, and those with beta-carotene intake greater than the median level.
So nuts are good.
Yeah, nuts are good for you. I mean, there's healthy fats in nuts, and like the things that the things that people think of as healthy, like a lot of times are not necessarily healthy, and one of those is seed oils. The study provides evidence of protection against early AMD from regular eating fish, greater consumption of, I don't know what that word is, 3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, and low intake of foods rich in linoleic acid. Regular consumption of nuts may also reduce AMD risk. Joint effects from multiple factors suggested. Google the negative effects of seed oils. When you go down the rabbit hole, first of all, they're all highly processed. In order to get oil out of a fucking grapeseed, like there's this massive process involved with that. These aren't natural foods.
Right.
Like olive oil, you press it. It's like a natural oil. And it's also like very good for your body. It's like a superfood.
Yeah.
The same thing with avocado oil. There's certain fats that come from vegetables that are like really good for you. But those aren't the highly processed ones that were initially designed as industrial machine lubricants, which is what's crazy. How industrial seed oils are making us sick. Click on that.
You said you're having someone on to come talk about this?
I had someone on recently.
Oh, okay.
How do you say Max's last name?
The way you said it would be how I would say it.
Lugaver.
Lugaver. Sure.
I don't want to fuck it up, but Max is brilliant, and we had him on, and he essentially broke it down. And
What
he's a big proponent of olive oil, especially like extra virgin olive oil. Experts have presented several dietary culprits as possible explanations for rapidly rising rates of chronic disease in industrialized nations, including sugar and saturated fat. However, one commonly consumed food found in the diets of millions has received surprisingly little attention: industrial seed oils.
Wow, they're in everything.
In fucking everything.
Everything.
Contrary to what we've been told, industrial seed oils such as soybean, canola, and corn oils are not heart healthy or otherwise beneficial for our bodies and brains. In fact, plenty of research indicates that these oils are making us sick. What are industrial seed oils? Unlike traditional fats such as olive oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee, and lard, industrial seed oils are a very recent addition to the human diet. In fact, industrial seed oils, the highly processed oils extracted from soybeans, corn, rapeseed, the source of canola oil, cottonseed, and safflower seeds, were only introduced into the American diet in the early 1900s.
Wow.
How then did these oils come to occupy such an influential position not only in the standard American diet but in westernized diets around the world?
I eat so clean. I'm
Good for you.
I
Well, that's
don't
probably why your placenta was so big.
I don't know. I didn't necessarily when I was pregnant. I gave into a lot of I just like any combination of cheese and bread. I am grilled cheese, mac and cheese, pasta, pizza. I just love it. But then when she was born, she had colic. And there's not really a lot of evidence, but there's a lot of
Put that back.
There's
Yeah,
an old wives' tale that if you what you eat can affect their colic, because colic is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just cut out everything except for proteins and veggies, essentially. And
Well,
yeah.
I think that's just better overall for your body.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Here is vegetable oils and trans fats, which include soybean, canola, and cottonseed oils, as well as hydrogenated and partially hydrogenated oils, undergo extensive heat and chemical processing. By the end of that process, they are oxidized, damaged, and cause inflammation to all the tissues in our bodies, including our eyes. And this is about cases of causes of macular degeneration.
all right, okay.
To add insult to injury, these types of fats also make their way into most man-made and high-sugar foods, such as cakes, pastries, fried foods, salad dressings, dips, margarines, and coffee creamers, cooking oils, and more.
Wow.
That makes these food a double whammy of inflammation for our eyes.
The exclamation point.
I like salad. I like to eat salads. And even when I was eating carnivore, that was the thing that I missed. I miss a nice salad, with a lot of leafy greens and cucumbers.
I love salads.
I love salads. I like it.
Yeah.
If it's not, this argument that salads are bad for you, I tend to lean towards the idea that there's a hormetic effect, and that whatever your body is like, that's what Dr. Rhonda Patrick says, that there's it provides a stressor to your body that provides a hormetic effect that's actually beneficial.
What's the argument that they're bad for you? I've never heard that.
There's arguments that the real hardcore carnivore people say, and I think much of that probably has to do with some people have a high sensitivity to these plant defense chemicals that some plants do produce. We know that plants produce chemicals that they're trying to avoid predation.
Right.
Right. So certain plants, if you play a recording of caterpillars eating leaves next to plants, they will change their chemical profile.
Wow.
And it makes it less delicious. So it makes they will literally release chemicals that make their leaves taste like shit.
Okay.
To the point where they've done these studies where they found that giraffes that are eating certain trees, I think it's the acacia tree, and they're eating it upwind. And so as this smell and the sound goes downwind, there's some sort of communication that we don't totally understand amongst plants, but the trees downwind become inedible.
Everything is a miracle.
It's fucking wild, but it's that's nature preventing.
Yeah.
Look, the way that Paul Saladino describes it, and I don't totally buy into all that he's saying, but I think a lot of what he's saying makes sense, is that animals, which are almost all edible, their defense is they run away. Plants, they can't run away. So what they do is they release these plant defense chemicals.
Okay.
Some people are highly sensitive to these.
Okay.
And when
Not
you
me.
take those into your body, some people, when they eat certain plants, they have reactions. But I think that's
Like what kind of reaction?
their body, they have like an autoimmune reaction.
Oh, okay.
Like some people that are on like high vegetable, high oxalate diets, high, like leafy greens and stuff like that. Some people have reactions to them. I think that that's probably less common than the hardcore carnivore people believe.
How long did you do the carnivore diet?
I generally only do it for a month in January. January is World Carnivore Month.
Okay.
So just for a goof, a couple times I've eaten nothing but meat.
Did you get the meat sweats? Is that a real thing?
No, I get the meat explosive diarrheas though. Dude, I had diarrhea that you could write home about. Like you write books about the diarrhea I had. Like it wasn't just diarrhea. It was like oil was coming out, like crude, like black gold, Texas Creed.
I don't feel like that. I mean, I understand that there's lots of benefits to it and people swear by it, but it seems like, I don't know. I feel like it takes me a long time to digest like a piece of steak.
I don't know. For me, that didn't bother me. I lost a lot of weight, but I didn't lose weight because I was dehydrated. The diarrhea only lasted a couple of weeks. But I mean, for a couple of weeks, it was touch and go. Like, it was like I would have a feeling in my stomach, like, oh, Jesus, like, get to a toilet quick.
How did you podcast?
I have strong butt muscles. I just keep it tight. I don't know. I did it. But here's the thing. It's like when you cut out all the carbs and you cut out particularly like bread and pasta, which is really, for me, the culprit.
Yeah.
I avoided all the crash, and I never felt sleepy. Like, my energy level was completely sustained all throughout the day.
Okay.
Then when I did it after that, I added in fruit.
Okay.
And when I added in fruit, I avoided all of the diarrhea, all of the craziness.
Okay.
So I guess the fiber from the fruit, and
Right.
it's just all I was eating was like ribeyes and elk meat.
Elk meat sounds good.
It's great.
Ribeyes,
But I
don't
needed
know.
fat. Like, you can't just eat elk meat. You can, I'm sure, but you need fat.
Yeah.
And elk is very lean. Elk
Okay.
is, you're basically eating a super athlete.
Yeah.
You're eating a super athlete that's running away from mountain lions. Like,
Yeah.
they're fucking jacked. And so when you butcher an elk, like when you're in the field and you butcher an elk, you see very little fat.
Right.
Very, very little. Mostly what you're seeing is muscle tissue and it's a dense, rich, dark red muscle tissue and it's so rich in protein and
Right.
vitamins, and it's so fucking healthy for you. But you need fat. So I would use tallow, beef tallow. That was grass-fed beef tallow. So I would cook it in that, so I'd get some fats from that. Mm-hmm. But I found that I started eating a lot of bacon with it, and that helped too. So when I'm eating,
This sounds really bad for your heart. I don't know.
That's a myth.
Is that
too.
a myth?
Yeah, that's a myth. That's definitely a myth. I mean, I think for some people genetically they're predisposed to certain heart conditions and certain cholesterol issues.
It doesn't like build up.
No.
When you're
No, see, this is that thing. It's like you have this like sort of like, what is it? Is that bad for? All the studies that point to meat being bad for your heart are what's called epidemiology studies, and those studies where they make people fill out like a questionnaire, like how many times a week do you eat meat?
Right.
Like 5 days a week. And they looked at those people and they said, oh, there's higher instances of heart disease in those people. But what they don't cover is how many of those fucking people are eating cheeseburgers.
Right.
And how many of those people have industrial seed oils in the cheeseburger and the bun and the fries, which are cooked in industrial seed oils. And how many of them are eating Coca-Cola, drinking Coca-Cola all day
cartons of
long,
ice
which is
cream.
filled with fucking seed oils,
Right.
and corn syrup. Like, all that shit is what's really bad for you. Well, you know about the studies that were done in, I think it was the 1950s or 1960s, where the sugar industry paid scientists to lie about the source of heart disease and connected to saturated fats. Mm-hmm. And it was really just bribery.
Yeah.
And they didn't pay him much. They paid him like $50,000. And in paying them that $50,000, see if we can find that. Because the New York Times wrote about this. So people have this idea that that meat is bad for you.
Well,
but meat is what people have been eating since the fucking beginning of time.
Right. I remember reading that, like, the whole idea that fat was bad for you is because of the sugar lobbies, and then they just replaced all of the fat with sugar, and then now we have an obesity epidemic,
100%.
essentially. And I do think there's part of the problem with, like, we have a problem. I mean, even flying lately, I'm like, oh my God, every single flight I've been on, they need like 7 wheelchairs. You know, it's just seems more than ever before people are struggling with obesity, and I think it's obviously been proven. And I think a lot of it too is just like confusion about what they should eat.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much confusion around food.
That's not really confusion. There is confusion, but it's also like that stuff's delicious, and it tricks your body into eating Cheetos. Go back to the top, please. So this is 50 years ago, sugar industry quietly paid scientists to point the blame at fat.
Did anybody get punished for this?
I think they're all dead. Luckily.
But this is also part of the problem. We have the ability for this crap to happen.
Yeah, well, it happens less and less now because of the internet, because this stuff can get out. But yeah, the next year after several scientific articles were published suggesting a link between sucrose and coronary heart disease, the SRF approved a literature review project, and it wound up paying approximately $50,000 in today's dollars for the research. One of the researchers was chairman of Harvard's Public Health Nutrition Department, an ad hoc member of SRF's board. So they literally paid these scientists to conduct this bullshit study because there was all sorts of articles, scientific articles, suggesting a link between sugar and coronary heart disease.
Oh, my gosh.
They recommended that the industry fund its own studies, which is then we can publish data and refute our detractors.
Someone got paid $50,000 to destroy America.
Literally kill people.
Yeah.
Literally kill people. I mean, how many people took margarine because they thought that margarine was good for you?
That's what I mean, though, about the confusion. I think that people are eating, I don't know what's in these Impossible burgers and all this, like, Beyond Meat stuff. It's creepy to me because
it causes liver damage in rats.
What is in it?
Oh, well, we'll show you. We'll show you what's in it. But remember, I can't believe it's not butter?
Yeah.
Well, I can fucking believe it. Tastes like shit. Doesn't taste like butter. What the fuck is wrong with you? Have you had butter? Butter's delicious.
I can't believe it's not butter.
I
Someone
can
who's never tried butter.
Do you smoke all day and have no taste buds? The fuck is wrong with you? Find out that the Impossible Burger thing where they found that there was a correlation between rat liver damage. Fucking rats. Rats eat rats. They eat everything. They eat garbage. They're fine.
Yeah.
They eat an Impossible Burger. They're going to the fucking hospital ward.
That's not good.
No. Here it is. Rat feeding study suggests the Impossible Burger may not be safe to eat.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Because it's not. Look, first of all.
But what is in it?
Okay. We'll tell you what's in it. Here it goes. Impossible Burger is a plant-based burger. The key ingredient, which a protein called soy leg hemoglobin, SLH for short, derived from genetically modified yeast. It's already being sold in restaurants and supermarkets in the U.S., and in 2019, the manufacturing company Impossible Foods applied for permission to market the burger in the EU and the U.K.
Did the EU let it in?
I don't know.
They're usually pretty strict about this stuff.
But this is all genetically modified bullshit. The results of the rat feeding study commissioned by Impossible Foods and carried out with SLH suggest that the burger may not be safe to eat. SLH is a substitute that gives the burger its meaty taste and makes it appear to bleed like meat when cut. The U.S. Food Department and Drug Administration initially refused to sign off the safety of SLH when it first approached by the company. The rat feeding study results suggest that the agency's concerns were justified. Rats fed the GM yeast-derived SLH developed unexplained changes in weight gain, changes in the blood that can indicate the onset of inflammation or kidney disease, and possible signs of anemia.
What the?
Yeah. Listen, if you don't like meat and you don't want to eat meat, there's plenty of plant-based protein sources.
Right.
Like pea protein is very good for you. Hemp protein is very good for you. You don't have to eat fake meat.
Yeah.
If you miss meat, have a burger. Have a burger from a cow that was a cunt. It's like only cunty cows. Cows that like kick farmers and fucking stomp on their babies. Surely there must be cows that deserve being eaten.
There's the like eating bugs and the impossible meat and all of this stuff. It just feels very strange to me.
Orwellian.
Yeah, the push for it. It's like this unified push for it that feels.
The bug doesn't bother me.
Bugs are good protein.
Yeah, maybe because I hosted Fear Factor, but
I've eaten bugs.
I've eaten bugs. I've eaten a lot of bugs.
I'm sure.
But cricket protein is actually good for you.
Yeah.
And it's a easy source of protein.
Yeah.
You know what's fucked up about that? I've eaten cricket protein, but if I find a cricket in my house, I always save it.
Oh, okay.
There's certain bugs that if you're in my house,
I save crickets.
You're dead. There's certain bugs where you don't live if you're a roach. If you're a roach, I'm going to fuck you up.
Do they have a lot of protein?
I don't know. I've eaten them. I ate a roach.
I went to this thing in New Zealand, and it was like this. I forget even what it was called. It's this, and it's one of those things where you eat all kind. I ate a grub, like they took it out of the wood, and I ate it. And
kind of flavorless, right?
Yeah, but it's just the moving around in your mouth. And they had all kinds of like weird things to eat, and it was just a New Zealand thing. And one of the things was horse semen, and I drank horse semen. They are giving shots of it, like little shots of it.
I think they lied to you. I don't think that has anything to do with bugs, Bridget.
I know. I was still drinking back then, and I was pretty drunk.
I went to a resort in Mexico, and they had like these little was it crickets or grasshoppers? I forget now. I think it was crickets, but they had like stir-fried crickets in like a salty sort of based, like a teriyaki type of thing, and they were delicious. And they were in a bowl. And my kids were really young at the time. They're like, ew. And I'm like, they're not bad. Yeah. And I was eating them. I ate them all. They're pretty good.
And when I was in Japan, in Kyoto, we went to this like fancy dinner, and they had these they were like minnows that were they were like French fries. They were delicious. But they were full of little minnows with little eyes.
Well, minnows are good. That's a smelt. Have you ever had smelt? In the East Coast, when I lived in Boston, my friends would go smelting.
Yeah.
And smelt are these tiny little fish, and you eat them whole. And I forget how they catch them, but you can't catch them with a hook. They're just too small. Mm-hmm. But they would get like tons of them and cook them, and they were delicious. And they're these little tiny things. You just eat them whole.
Yeah.
But crickets and bugs, like, we have a thing in our head about bugs, but that's what a fucking lobster is. That's a bug.
Yeah.
And they're goddamn delicious.
They're delicious.
They're so good, right? But they're essentially bugs. Like divers, they call them bugs.
Yeah.
We're diving for bugs.
Yeah, it's not really the bug thing that weirds me out. It's the like unified push for everyone to eat bugs that weirds me out.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not going to make me eat freaking bugs and live in a pod.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's that, you will have nothing
like
and you'll be happy.
Yeah, the like Great Reset or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, why do I feel like I'm going to be on the shit end of this reset?
Well, you 100% will. They'll be on a yacht eating caviar and foie gras, and you'll be eating bugs in a hovel somewhere.
Yeah, some little freaking pod.
Cockroach milk is protein-rich, crystallized substance produced by a specific type of cockroach called Diploptera punctata. The species is unique because it gives birth to live offspring. Members make milk in the form of protein crystals to serve as food for the developing young. Yeah, I'm not opposed to eating bugs because there's a thing amongst hunters and conservationists where they harvest cicadas. Mm-hmm. And when they have like those big cicada hatches, people harvest them and they bake them. And like my friend Ryan Callahan posted he has a podcast. What is this podcast called? Cal's. Let me fucking find his podcast. But Cal's Weekend Review. And it's a great podcast. It's all about like different things that have to do with nature and conservation and stuff like that. But cicadas are delicious. They have more than 100 grams per pound, according to Inverse. Of course, you might find it more palatable to eat a big steak, but they know how to cook them. And when they cook them, they act like Ryan said, they're really good. Like you just have to know how to prepare them and harvest them.
But isn't there a bug apocalypse? Have you read about this? This is a rabbit hole I've been going down. The bug apocalypse. Google the bug apocalypse, please, Jamie.
Oh, there's so many apocalypses.
There's so many apocalypses. I mean, that's
Insect apocalypse. A growing body of scientific evidence shows that bugs worldwide are decreasing in abundance and diversity.
No, this is
prompting
a rabbit
warnings. Wow. Scientists estimate that 40% of known species are declining and hypothesize that losses could trigger large-scale ecological collapse.
This is a huge problem. But this is why I'm like, why are we pushing bugs? I thought there was a bug apocalypse. It's just not getting as much attention as the other apocalypse.
Well, when they're pushing bugs, they're pushing harvesting bugs and raising them for consumption.
Yeah.
But they could do that pretty easily. That's the reason why they want to do that. It's because like resource-wise, it's a fairly it's an easier thing to like. You don't need as much land to make.
I know. I've interviewed a lot of the bug people.
Have you?
Yeah.
Who have you interviewed that's interesting?
There's this one, I have to remember her name. I did this thing where I interviewed, like, I swear it was like 20 people every 5 minutes I interviewed a different person. And one of the women was someone who's building the technology to have these bug pods in your house so you can eat the bugs. And I can look it up. I have to.
What did you do? Every 20 minutes?
It was
speed interviews?
No, it felt like that. It was I have like mom brain is real. It's a real thing.
You need some alpha brain. Want
what
some
is
of that?
it? Can I take it? I'm breastfeeding.
I don't want to be responsible for your kid becoming a super genius. But alpha brain is a nootropic that my company On It makes. And I'm not saying this because it's my company, because it's nootropics, and it's the reason why we started On It. When Aubrey and I started On It 10, 11 years ago, whatever it was, the reason why we started it was because I got fascinated with nootropics. And I got into, there's a thing called Neuro One that Bill Romanowski, the football player, developed because he was having problems with CTE and memory loss. And so there's certain nootropics, which are nutrients that are the building blocks for human neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
And you can take those and they can enhance memory. And it was very controversial. A lot of people called bullshit and snake oil, but we funded 2 double-blind, placebo-controlled studies with the Boston Center for Memory that showed an increase in verbal memory, increase in your reaction times, and it's essentially it helps your ability to form sentences and come up with, like, when I do the UFC, which is like the time where it's the most memory intensive for me, because I have to recall techniques and moves and when it happened. I always take Alpha Brain.
Right.
I take it for every time I have to talk to a scientist. I take this shit.
I was wondering how you talk to these guys. I was reading about mom brain, and they're starting to really study it, and you lose gray matter.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The resources that the baby needs, you're making a fucking human.
But they also think it's because their theory is that it's so you can have more attention for the baby. So your attention just goes not as many other places, and more resources are given so you can connect to the baby.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I mean, I usually am I struggle to like find basic words. I couldn't remember the word assessment on the way over here.
I do that all the time though, especially when I wake up. If you catch me, it's the reason
Find
why
out
I
if
do
you
a
can
podcast.
take it while you
I
breastfeed.
will. I'll ask Jason, the CEO, what studies they've done on that. But not just this stuff, but there's also stuff called NeuroGum that I don't have any association with other than I purchase it. And NeuroGum, we have boxes of it over there. I chew that shit all the time.
Yeah.
And that has... it also has nootropics in it and a little bit of caffeine.
You gave me some of that actually once when I was here, and I used it all the time. I love that stuff.
It's
actually.
amazing.
It really
it's
did
great.
help me feel like on it and sharp.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
It's
I was
nootropics.
like, what is in this?
Nootropics, it's real science. It's not horseshit or snake oil or placebos. It's real.
Yeah.
And again, there's many different versions of it. This is my favorite, Alpha Brain Black Label. This stuff is the shit. It's the best of anyone that I've ever tried. But I do really like Neuro One. Neuro One I like too because it's a powder. You scoop it. I put it in like a jug of shake it in water. It tastes good. I love the gum, and there's a bunch of other ones that are available too that different companies sell, and they have different effects, but all of them are designed to enhance memory.
I need it right now.
Yeah, keep the mind sharp. It makes sense, right? Like there's neurotransmitters, there's building blocks for those neurotransmitters. We know that 5-HTP helps you produce serotonin, and there's all these different things that can enhance the function of the brain.
Right.
And for me, that's all I have. I'm a dumb dude, but I have a good memory. But one of the reasons why I have a good memory is because I use it a lot.
You do have a good memory.
It's pretty good. It's good most of the time.
Especially considering how much weed you smoke.
Yeah. This month is not any better. Like my brain's not any better. I don't think the weed fucks with my short-term memory for sure.
When I quit smoking weed, at first my brain was fried, and I was like, "Oh, I don't think weed affects you at all." And then I was waiting tables, which requires a lot of memory, and suddenly I was remembering everyone's name. Like it was like my brain came back online, but it took like 3 months.
Yeah,
it wasn't like after 30 days. I think weed takes a while to like get out of your system.
You know what definitely happens when you stop smoking weed is you dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dreams are amazing.
My dreams, the moment I stopped smoking weed this month, like within a couple of days, I started having wild dreams.
Yep.
And they're all like very violent. They're all like wolves chasing you and shit, falling off cliffs. And it's like war. I have war dreams.
Everybody's talking about Civil War, though. That's just like in the zeitgeist. And I'm always like, America's too fat for a Civil War.
I don't have Civil War dreams. I have war dreams.
Like big war dreams?
Yeah, like hiding in apartment buildings and seeing soldiers enter into the building and trying to figure out how to get out.
I've had a recurring dream for years. I've talked about this, but maybe not here, but I've had it for years. And I'm in New York City. And then there's like this gas that starts coming up through the manholes. And I'm like, they're gassing us. And then everybody gets like paralyzed and we're all just staring at each other and we're conscious, but we can't move. And it's the Chinese. And the Chinese are occupying the United States. And they've like, somehow I end up getting free of my paralyzation. And then I'm running through the woods in Connecticut, and which I used to live in Connecticut. So it's very familiar, the woods there, all the way to Rhode Island. And then I get to my grandmother's house, and we stage a defense against the Chinese soldiers who are coming, and we're hiding. And then I wake up when they knock on the door of the attic. Like, I've had this dream like 4 times, 4 or 5, in recently, but I've been having it for years. I'm like, and it's always the same. Like, I'm in my grandma's house, and then they're like, we're trying to hide.
How much are you worried about an actual situation like that happening?
I mean, I don't know. Everything's so weird. Elon took over Twitter today.
Yeah.
Like, we live in a simulation.
No, that's the best.
That crazy bastard did it.
How about when he walked into Twitter's headquarters with a sink and said, "Let that sink in"?
It's like a dad joke.
Yes, that's him.
I know.
He's funny.
We have like this ongoing bet on Dumpster Fire that he's my nemesis. And it started because of my husband, who we were doing one of these dumb books someone got us. It's like, oh, you can like connect as a couple. And we were jokingly, kind of ironically, in our Gen X way doing it. And it was like, what's something you would like always want to do or something like that? He was like, have dinner with Elon Musk. And I was like, it was supposed to be something about me. And I was like, fuck you. You're going to have dinner with Elon, not have dinner with me. And so it became this ongoing joke because of him being my nemesis, but it's really
what made him
your
nemesis?
Because it's hilarious because I'm a nobody and he's a genius buying Twitter and sending rockets to space and trying to get to Mars, and I'm screaming in a garage on Dumpster Fire. So there's that hilarious aspect. But it's mostly just because it became this ongoing joke because my husband started joking about his being enamored with Elon Musk. And so I was just jealous. So he became like, it's just become this ongoing, and then somebody sent us an Elon cutout for the set. And then so whenever we do an Elon as my nemesis, I'm like, my nemesis is what's he up to now? And we like bring the cutout on for the bit.
Well, we're hoping we can get our girl Megan re-established.
Free
on Twitter
Megan.
now. Yeah, free Megan Murphy.
Free Megan. There's so many.
Yeah.
People were like,
there's so many people that need to be reestablished.
So I mean, James Lindsay got booted, I think.
Yes.
And somebody was like, this is like when the Joker let all the prisoners out.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not, because
well,
it's not the
if you
Joker.
see them as like political prisoners, it might be.
those are crazy paranoid people that they've been enjoying the fact that it's an ideological thought bubble.
Right.
That Twitter has only enforced left-wing ideologies, and they've suppressed any conservative ideologies, even amongst reasonable, kind people that don't share the same ideology. That's fucking bad for our society.
Yeah,
it's
is.
bad.
I'm not a huge proponent of like the parallel economies either. You know, I don't know that it's good. You know, you
What do you mean by parallel economies?
This is like the term that everybody's using, particularly on the right, because, and it's valid, as these places like PayPal and financial institutions are saying you can't, you know, if you say this or step out of line, we're going to fine you. There's this idea that you're going to have to create a parallel economy in order to function, essentially. So don't give your money to, I mean, I think the Daily Wire did it with the razors. They had like
Harry's razors,
they did, and Jeremy did some razors. So it's like, oh, don't give your money to people who hate you. Give your money to people who share your ideology. But then you have these, the silos are forming where it's like, then everyone's over here and everyone who agrees is over here, and no one's forced to actually articulate their ideas or disagree with one another. It's just everyone like smelling their own farts. It is, though.
Yeah,
it is.
That's not healthy.
No.
Well, that's what Elon wants to bring back to Twitter is reasonable exchange of ideas. That's like, he really thinks it's important.
It is important. It is.
I think it's important too, but it's just rare that someone is that wealthy
that they can do that.
That can do that. And also, he was very left-leaning for most of his life.
Yeah.
Until really recently, the pandemic in particular, and the way people have sort of enforced these ideologies, regardless of whether or not the science supports it.
Yep.
And he thinks it's bad, and I think it's true. I think we have a real problem with discourse, particularly like discourse on Twitter, right? Like if you post something and then someone posts something that opposes what you say, like, and then you got to like formulate it. Like some people don't want that. So what they would like to do is silence the people that have opposing viewpoints. And then you get all this positive feedback from all the people that agree with you. And you're like, yes, I want to amplify that because that feels good. I said the right thing.
I said the right.
And then when someone comes in with facts or opinion, fuck you, you Nazi, you fascist. And it's like, that's what people are doing now because it's a shit way to communicate. Communicating like that, it's good. It's a good way to get out information and ideas really quickly, but it's a bad way to exchange ideas and to dialogue about stuff because it's the way people are supposed to really communicate is like how we're doing.
Yeah.
Two people looking at each other, talking. That's how we're designed. We're not really designed to read text.
No. How many times have people gotten in fights because there was a misunderstanding on text?
All the time.
Yet people can't, and then there's so much projection that happens online. It's so much of like whatever your insecurities might be, you're not getting that information like you get in real time when you're talking to somebody. You're not seeing somebody might be getting sensitive, or maybe you just see it in stand up where you get that feedback in real time. Where you're like, we're in a dodgy part of town right now.
Yeah.
But you don't get that online, and then there's so much like projection of people's trauma and people's insecurities and wounds, and it just ends up hurting. You know, people are really hurting. People are losing their minds. I think I'm worried about everyone's mental health.
Well, Twitter is basically a mental health institution where the inmates are giving life advice.
You say this all the time, and I love it.
That's what it is.
You said it. I read someone quote you. It was like Twitter is a mental health institution where all the mental patients are like throwing shit at each other.
Yeah, that's what they did. They're throwing shit at each other. They're trying to they're trying to stick it on you.
You always say don't read the comments, and one comment after my last time here came through, and I was laughing at it. It was like, these two, it's like watching someone play ping pong against themselves. I know it was meant as an insult, but I'm like, it's kind of true.
We agree a lot. So why is that bad? It's not bad to agree with people either. I try very hard to look at other people's perspectives. I really do. And I also realize that I have a very weird situation where my voice gets amplified way above where it should.
You're not in a garage like I am in dumpster fire.
But even you, I mean, you've got a lot of fucking people listen, a lot of people watch. That's way more than most people.
Yeah.
When you have an idea and that idea resonates with people, it gets spread, and then the thing. Like I had this discussion the other day with someone where we were talking about with ideas that people disagree with. One of the problems is, like, if you put something out and you say something, people are listening. They disagree, but they don't have a voice. Like if people are listening to us right now, no, that's not why. The reason why is marginalized people are brr, 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 brr. Do you see the other day where Biden said that fucking airplane seats are racist? Did you see what he said?
No.
He's so fucking
I've
crazy.
tuned out.
He's doing this thing where you just say something and say, especially people of color. Like, you can say that, like, and affect people, low-income people and people of color. Like, he likes to do that because it's like this liberal talking point that you can attach. And if you disagree with that, well, then
You're racist.
You're racist,
Yeah.
or you're not sensitive to people of color. So he was talking about airline seats and leg room. This is how fucking dumb we've gotten. Find this. Because basically, barely getting a sentence out anyway. Biden claims hidden airline fees disproportionately affect people of color. First of all, he's trying to say that airline seats somehow... Listen, folks, these are junk fees. They're unfair, and they hit marginalized Americans the hardest, especially low-income folks and people of color. First of all... And people of color, like, what about
Why?
rich people that go to the fucking first class in the airplane? There's a lot of people of color. People of color are kicking ass.
This is a guy
There's a
who
lot of
hasn't
people
been
doing
in
great.
first class in a long time.
Yeah, he's been flying around in Air Force One for as long as he can remember. His memory's good for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
What does it scroll down again? A little further there?
Other tweets about other stuff
Yeah.
he said.
Poor kids poor kids are just as talented as smart and white kids.
Oh my God.
An actual Joe Biden quote.
It's weird because we're the midterms are right. I've been tuning out, but I couldn't even the debate the other night. Everybody was talking about the Fetterman Oz debate, and I couldn't even watch it. I was like, everyone's like, you've got to tune in. I'm like, this.
Do you know
feels
it's hard to find?
Really?
Yes.
I'm like, this
It's
feels
being removed. There's make sure this is correct, because there was Duncan was telling me that there's a Reddit conspiracy was talking about how places have taken down the debate.
So you can't actually watch it with your own eyes. And
this is a thing that's happening, and one of the things that people are criticizing is apparently Gmail. This is an issue that Republicans, when they're sending out like emails to get people to vote and for mailing lists, their mails have gone into spam filters.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Here, I'll find this.
So we deal with that. I mean, I don't know. I hate to be like a conspiracy theorist, but with dumpster fire on YouTube is a good example. We were like doing, look, our views weren't huge. We were getting like 30 to 40,000 regularly. And then we started talking about certain issues like Leah Thomas.
Yeah.
And suddenly our stuff just dropped off. And
100%
I know that we're not like, maybe people don't like us and we lost some audience, but 40% of our audience?
No, you're 100%. They punish you with the algorithm. Republican committee in U.S. sues Google over email spam filters. Republican National Committee accuses Gmail of discriminating against it by unfairly sending its emails to users' spam folders, impacting fundraising and get out the vote efforts. This is, you know, the Gmail or G Drive, Google Drive. If you try to put up the Kanye episode of Drink Champs, you know that they had a podcast, and this was the original podcast that got Kanye in trouble. If someone uploaded that to Google Drive and they deleted it.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, this is
wild shit.
It's over. I mean, the New York Times just had a crazy article that we covered on dumpster fire.
Look at this.
Oh,
Google
wow.
Drive has allegedly been going into people's personal storage and
Is this
deleting.
real?
Yes. Kanye West Drink Champs interview.
I mean, I don't know this 6 Buzz TV account.
Yeah, but it's in a lot of places. Like, people have tried it. Your file may violate Google Drive's terms of service.
Oh, wow.
Because in that conversation, he said what things that they consider to be anti-Semitic.
So did you see that article that was going around, and it was a big long thread on Twitter, and a guy had to send his pediatrician a photo of his son's genitalia because he had a rash. And a lot of time pediatricians now, because of COVID, will be like, send me a picture, let me look, I can prescribe you something. And Google shut down, he had a Gmail, shut down his phone, shut down
his phone? What do you mean?
Because he had a Google phone. Shut down his phone,
what do you
shut
mean by
down his
shut
Gmail.
Down his phone?
They like shut his phone down.
What do you mean by shut his phone down?
He
what does that mean?
He couldn't use his phone. He was unable to use his phone.
You mean he couldn't make phone calls with his Android phone?
They took all of his pictures.
A dad took photos of his naked toddler for the doctor. Google flagged him as a criminal.
This is a wild story.
They have an automated tool to detect abusive images of children, but the system can get it wrong, and the consequences are serious. What if you shave your junk and you have a little penis and you send it to your girlfriend?
And you're just like
that?
Deleted?
Yeah. What if you just have,
look,
unfortunately have a micro penis?
They're so big. I don't know how you deal with. Of course, I don't want child pornography out there. So I understand that they're trying to take measures because this is a problem that is now been assisted by technology.
But find out about the phone thing, because Google that they shut down his phone, because I was actually very interested in this new Pixel. This new Pixel phone, my friend Brian Simpson has one, and he fucking loves it.
Is that the one you can like delete stuff? Delete images in the background?
What do you mean? You can delete images in the background?
So if you take a picture of like you frolicking on the beach and there's some person in the background you don't want in it, you can just circle it and like it looks like make that person disappear. You can delete things.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's some fucking asshole giving you the finger behind you. Like, oh, you think you fucked up my picture? But so Brian's phone he was telling me like all the different, like, it's not there's pros and cons to data collecting. The pros are that when they data collect, they can find things that you're actually interested in and send those things your way, right?
He had to get a new phone.
So click on this. Okay. That is fucking crazy.
No, it's a crazy story. It's crazy. And they still won't give him all of his images back.
Not only did he lose emails, contact information for friends and former colleagues, and documentation of his son's first years of life, but his Google Fi account shut down, meaning he had to get a new phone number with another carrier. Without access to his old phone number and email address, he couldn't get the security codes he needed to sign into other internet accounts, locking him out of much of his digital life.
It's nuts. And I think in the story, and I'm not going to remember the order of operations, but he found out that he had been flagged for this because it automatically got sent to the police, and the police luckily determined that it was not what Google flagged it as.
Scroll back up to the top, please. To the very top of I wanted to read when they were describing what he does. Go back up to the very top of the article. So when the photo of him where it says who he is and what he does is a stay-at-home dad. Stop. Stay-at-home dad in San Francisco. He grabbed his Android smartphone, took photos to document the problem. His wife grabbed her husband's phone and texted a few high-quality close-ups of her son's groin area to her iPhone so that she could upload to that. So he has a Google phone. The wife has an iPhone.
How are they even together?
Scroll down. Does it say what he does? This gentleman does?
Yeah, it said he was an audio or an engineer of some kind.
Yeah, Okay. Mark had worked as a software engineer at a large technology company's automated tool for taking down video content flagged by users as problematic. He knew such systems often have a human in the loop to ensure that the computers don't make a mistake, and he assumed his case would be cleared up as soon as it reached that person.
So yeah, 2 days after taking the pictures, it said he got a blooping notification noise. His account had been disabled because of harmful content that was a severe violation of Google's policies and might be illegal.
That is crazy that they fucking shut down his phone.
But I think I might be mistaken. I don't want to. I've read this story so many times, but again, mom brain, and I believe he found out about it because of that bloop. But then the police got involved, and he was cleared, but he still can't even get his stuff back. And it's like all the pictures of his. I just had a kid. I'd be devastated if I lost all of the images.
Maybe they can give it back to him. The more eggs you have in one basket, the more likely the basket is to break. A few days after Mark filed the appeal, Google responded that it would not reinstate the account with no further explanation. Google didn't know it, but Mark didn't know it, but Google's review team had also flagged a video he made, and the San Francisco Police Department had already started to investigate him.
So he actually is hoping that he can get his stuff back from the police because they have a drive. This is the other fucked up thing. They got a drive of everything that he had. Every text message, every photo, every single thing, his whole digital life was given to the police. Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
He was in the middle of buying a house and signing countless digital documents when his Gmail account was disabled. He asked his mortgage broker to switch his email address, which made the broker suspicious, until his real estate agent vouched for him. Holy fuck.
Yeah, this is a wild article.
Turned me off to getting a fucking Google phone, Brian Simpson.
I mean, I'm sure Apple can do it too.
But they don't. They don't do that. I've never heard that.
Not yet. I mean, yeah, no.
I think Apple's a little better with that stuff.
Yeah, it was that story was wild. And I mean, I think they would be like, well, you have to break a few eggs or whatever that expression is in order to catch some predators. But there needs to be a way for people to get all their stuff back if they've been cleared. It's so crazy. And it's chilling and terrifying how much power they actually have. His
internet searches, his location history, his messages, and any document, photo, and video he'd stored with the company. What is this saying? It was all given to the police department.
Yeah.
It contained a letter informing him that had been investigated, as well as copies of the search warrants served on Google and his internet service provider.
Isn't that crazy? His internet search history, everything.
Right. Wow. I determined that the incident did not meet the elements of a crime, and no crime occurred. Mr. Hillard wrote in his report, the police had access to the information Google had on Mark and decided it did not constitute child abuse or exploitation. Of course it didn't. You have to talk to Google, Mr. Hillard said, according to Mark. Mark appealed his case to Google again, providing the police report, but to no avail. After getting a notice 2 months ago that his account was being permanently deleted, Mark spoke with a lawyer about suing Google and how much it would cost. I decided it was probably not worth the $7,000. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. This
Kate
story
Klonick,
is
a
nuts.
law professor at St. John's University who's written about online content moderation, said it can be challenging to account for things that are invisible in a photo, like the behavior of the people sharing the image or the intentions of the person taking it. False positives, where people are erroneously flagged, are inevitable given the billions of images being scanned. While most people would probably consider that trade-off worthwhile, giving the benefit of identifying abused children, Ms. Klonick said that companies need a robust process for clearing and reinstating innocent people who are mistakenly flagged.
Has this successfully saved abused children
I
yet?
I believe it has. I mean, I would hope so.
I hope so too, because if it's only getting people in trouble.
But how-
What are the other options other than like Google Photos? If you have, like, say, an Android phone, what are the options other than?
I don't know.
If Google Photos is like checking for child porn on all your photos, is Apple doing that too?
That's a good question.
But find out if Apple does something similar.
I'm sure they have to.
They have to, probably, right?
That's the thing. These companies all have so much. Did they know they were going to have this much power, or is it something that they just didn't account for?
Apple will scan U.S. iPhones for image of child sexual abuse. This is from August of 2021.
Yeah. But then what I wonder is how can they just send all of your information?
Right, that has nothing to do with
How is that not
that.
a violation of your rights?
It should be, and he probably does have a case. I hope people are reaching out to him because, if it's not worth $7,000 to him, maybe someone will take it on pro bono because that's a fucked up situation
Yeah.
for that guy. And listen, especially people that are hearing this is going to steer people away from using an Android phone. Apple holds off on plans to scan for child porn.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Apple had been going back and forth on it. I didn't know where they landed
This
on
is in
it.
December of 2021. Apple has implemented 2 new child safety features. However, the most controversial one is missing. So that's the one where they scan off phone. Well, they probably reasonably assume that some people do take photos of their kids when they're naked.
So one of the videos that when they said there was another video that was flagged, he said it was a video he probably took of his wife like breastfeeding his son, and she was probably topless. And
You can't take topless photos, though. That is fucking bananas. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
If it's just breastfeeding.
He's like, that's all I can think of is it was probably just an intimate moment where my wife was lying in bed with my son and I wanted to capture it. I mean, that's like.
How the fuck? I get that they have a big net, right? I get it. Google flagged parents' photos of sick children as sexual abuse. In at least 2 cases, Google has shut down accounts over pictures of kids containing nudity requested by pediatricians for diagnosing illnesses.
Yeah, I would. That's a good question, though, Jamie. I would like to know, like, how successful this is. How many. I'm all for catching predators and pedophiles, but
Right, but you have to have someone who would clearly look at that and go, "Oh, I see.
Right.
Your kid has an issue.
Right.
You send a photo to a pediatrician. The pediatrician checks out. We looked at, the rest of your account. Okay,
Yeah.
you're good."
well,
But even
definitely.
that fucks you up because then they get to look at all your photos.
I know.
What if some of them are your cock and you're sending them to your wife? Like, is that like, are you an abuser? Are you a bad person?
No,
You're
but
sending dick
that's
pics?
what I don't understand is how the scope, how they're able to just send the drive with everything.
No, it's
How
fucked.
that scope, how that
It's
is
fucked.
somehow, it seems like it should be a violation of like search and seizure, or I don't know. I'm not.
Well, this is
not a genius.
This is
here.
the argument for platforms like Signal,
Mm-hmm.
where Signal is it's a messaging platform
It's a
where
CIA
it's encrypted.
honeypot.
I think that's WhatsApp.
They have to be.
They have to have something like that. Look, I'm not under the illusion. I had Gavin DeBecker on, who is a security expert, who explained to me that the original Pegasus that was invented by, I think it was the Mossad, the Israeli government,
Yeah.
invented someone invented this original way of scanning your phone. So what it would be was, this is how Jeff Bezos, like the Saudis, got a hold of. They hacked him. He was doing something with them,
His
and
dick
they
pics?
sent him. Yeah, eventually, but they sent him a WhatsApp link. He clicks on the WhatsApp link, and it uploads this Pegasus program to his phone. And then because of that, they got access to all of his stuff. And I think the story goes, I don't want to fuck this up, but I think the story goes that Jeff Bezos' bombshell girlfriend,
Yeah.
her brother, is kind of a scumbag.
Okay.
And Bezos is now suing the brother. Make sure that's true.
Is he?
Because the brother got access to those things because of this, and then he sold them to tabloids.
How did the brother get access to it?
I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe the sister just left the phone laying around. I don't know what happened, but
Okay.
that's how all this is kind of connected to this thing called Pegasus.
Okay.
And what Pegasus is spyware that allows people to look in your phone. That's Pegasus 1. He said Pegasus 2, the newest, best version, all they need is your phone number.
Whoa.
So everything you say online, everything you
Yeah.
say to your friends, everything you say is capable of being monitored. There literally are no secrets anymore. The best thing about something like Signal is Signal has an auto delete function. So you could say, I send you a
Yeah.
message, so go fuck yourself, Bridget.
Yeah.
And that message goes away in 5 minutes.
Okay.
If I decide to do it that way.
Right. I mean, but people can still screenshot, right?
They can screenshot
Yeah.
it. But it doesn't have, you don't have a digital record of it the way you have
Right,
with
right.
text messages or
But I'm
iMessages.
sure they could go back and find it, right?
I'm sure, but I think the thing is with this Pegasus thing is they have access to your phone.
Yeah.
Like not just every email you send,
Yeah.
every search, wherever you're going with maps. Every time you go to a location, like your phone knows where home is. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, do you want to go home with the map? Like, how do you know where I live, bitch? I didn't tell you. It just knows that's where you go every night.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was why I was laughing when everybody was like, oh, the tracking devices. And there were all those memes going around. It's like, they don't need a tracking device in the vaccines. Like, you have a phone.
Yeah. Well, that is just, they thought there was magnets in there and all sorts of wild shit. You know.
Yeah.
you-
Go on.
No, it's just, it's the weird trade-off of this digital life that we live.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's very. I wonder too if that's why the younger generation doesn't have the same. They're like, "What's privacy?"
they don't give a fuck.
They don't. Yeah, they don't. They know that it doesn't really exist.
My friend Cameron Haynes, his son is on the TikTok and he's addicted to TikTok. And I was
So many
explaining
kids.
to them about the privacy violations and all this thing. He's like, "Yeah, but TikTok's awesome. I'm not deleting it." He was laughing, but he also doesn't have anything to hide in his mind. You know,
Right.
he's 25 and doesn't give a fuck. Like,
Yeah, but you don't have anything to hide. But that's like, well, if you don't have anything to hide, why are you afraid they're going to search your house?
Yeah, that
you don't have
fucking-
anything to hide until suddenly something is like all the rules change so quickly now.
Yeah.
What is allowed and what isn't allowed, and it does seem there is a very I don't know. I feel more optimistic lately because I do think people. I saw a lot of people move with their feet during the pandemic. Did you see the New York City is reinstating a story that's getting zero press, by the way.
yeah, say that story. Tell everybody that story.
The New York, I think New York
Supreme Court.
City's being forced to reinstate all the was it the city employees
Yes.
who were fired for refusing to take the vaccine
Yeah, and with back pay.
with back pay.
They have to pay them back pay. So all the cops
Yep.
that got fired, all the frontline workers,
Yep.
which is great.
Which is great.
Because the thing they said is it doesn't prevent transmission and it doesn't prevent infection, which is true.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that people were worried about from the very beginning. You remember when they were saying that breakthrough and very rare breakthrough
Yeah.
breakthrough infections. It's all horseshit. And
Yeah.
then did you see where the Pfizer, that woman from Pfizer in the EU, she was testifying and she had to say that they never tested it.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
They never tested it to see if it prevented infections.
Yeah.
They had no data, and they were just saying it openly. The vaccine prevents infection. They had no data that showed that.
The New York that was made me optimistic seeing that because it is such garbage. Like the Djokovic couldn't come in and play tennis.
Right.
I'm like how you know people are still getting this when they're vaccinated.
Not only that, he's had COVID twice.
This is nonsensical. It doesn't even I don't even care how many times he's had COVID. This is just bullshit at this point because we know this and I don't know this like allergy to science that has taken
It's not an allergy to science. It's an allergy to people that oppose a specific ideology. Like, that's what I say about masks. Like, masks, I don't even think these people think masks prevent COVID. It's a way of letting people know that you're a leftist. Like, masks are the Democrats' MAGA hat. That's what it is. It's letting people know I'm keeping everyone safe. I've had 18 boosters and I still wear a mask.
I mean, you want to talk about privilege, though. This is people who are allowed to stay home in their bubble and never leave, who are saying this stuff. Because if you were just like a working class person, you were working through the whole pandemic.
When we went to see Roger Waters, we all had to wear masks. When we went backstage, we all had to wear masks. Everyone had masks on.
Oh, wow.
Everyone. And I asked one of the guys working there, I go, what is this? Because it's wild. I've never seen this before. Not recently. And he said, it is everyone's way of letting everyone know that they're leftists. This is a guy who worked there. He goes, this is what it is. He goes, and so me and Tony, I went with Hinchcliffe. I was like, put your mask on, Tony. Put your mask on. I put my mask on. I go, you should have a fucking mask on. And we were just
Did you have the
joking around.
option to not wear it?
No, you had to wear it.
Oh, weird.
You had to wear it. Well, we were hanging around with Roger. The idea was that Roger can't afford to get sick because Roger's older. But meanwhile, I was getting drunk with Roger afterwards. I mean, I wasn't getting drunk because it's sober October, but Roger's doing shots of tequila. We're all hanging out. There's photos of us all maskless hanging out
Right.
with Roger after the concert.
Right.
We're all sitting around the table. There's Ari and Tony and
Yeah,
Duncan
yeah,
and
I
Duncan's
saw
wife.
that.
And we're having a great time, just chit-chatting, having a blast. But meanwhile, fucking 20 minutes ago, we had to wear a mask.
Yeah.
It's wild. Doesn't make any sense.
Nope. And all through, I think like all of this, another thing that makes me optimistic is suddenly CNN the other day was like, how come we're not talking about the children who suffered during the pandemic? It's like, no shit. We were screaming about this during the pandemic. I was like, this was one of the things that like broke me. That just made my blood boil. Was the people who suffered the most, that were the people that they said they cared about. Like, you think that who's going to suffer when the parks are closed? Who's going to suffer when it's the kids who can't log in, and it's the kids who live in places where they need public parks, not kids with like backyards and a device.
Well, how about the fucking developmental issues?
Oh man,
that's the
all
real one.
All my friends and family who work in childcare are like, everybody's behind.
Yeah, the kids are all behind in learning how to talk.
Yeah. Yep.
Learning how to read people's facial expressions.
I know.
It's a key developmental period of these children's lives. So children that were like 2 and 1 and 3 years old, like little kids that are learning from people's expressions and how they talk, now all of a sudden everyone's got like a block over that. And so it stunts their development.
But this is what makes me so mad at progressives and people who are saying like, we need to like shut the schools. And in LA, I think we had maybe the longest shutdowns. And they're like, that's just them protecting everybody else. But these kids are behind. And they do lots of studies about like marginalized communities and the summer gap, because a lot of kids fall behind over the summer. And this was like a very extended 2-year summer gap for a lot of the people that allegedly all of these people, care about. But I'm like, if you cared, you would have these kids back in school. They don't get that sick.
Well, they didn't adjust, right? When they learned that it wasn't scary for everybody, that the real people that were being affected by this in a dangerous way were old people and overweight people and people with compromised immune systems. Mm-hmm. They didn't adjust for that. And we knew they didn't adjust for that. And they were just telling you have to do what we say. And that's where it got maddening for people.
Yeah.
Where they're like, what are you talking about? Especially people that had COVID and got over it. They're like, hey, what are you saying? Because I had it. I know what it is.
Yeah.
And if you're healthy and if you take care of yourself, it's not as bad as if you're not healthy and not taking care of yourself, but you're not saying that.
Yeah.
So you're not providing all the data. All you're doing is acting as propagandists for the pharmaceutical companies that are pushing this one binary solution. You have to do this.
Yeah.
There's people telling me after I survived from COVID. I survived.
I'm a COVID survivor.
After I was sick for a day. After I was sick, people were telling me you should get vaccinated now. I'm like, what are you talking about?
You're like,
what the fuck are you saying?
That's what getting sick is.
Sanjay Gupta was saying this to me when I had Sanjay Gupta on. I was like, you know that getting over the disease provides a better protection, 7 times better.
Yeah.
This is science.
Yep.
So what are you saying? Well, it's even more protection if you get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Even more.
No.
So what? I get over it in 6 hours instead of 24? Like, what the fuck are you saying?
And it's not protecting other people.
It's not. It's not protecting people from transmission. It's not protecting people from infection.
And selling that idea to people is dangerous, because now you have people thinking I got the vaccine and I'm not going to spread it, and they're spreading it.
Yes. And they thought they were doing the right thing. So they think everybody should do the thing that they did, which makes sense.
Yeah.
It's logical. It's logical that if you think you did the right thing and you went and got vaccinated, you're mad that other people didn't. But then once you've gotten all the data, and as time goes on, we're going to get even more data, more and more and more over time. And we're going to recognize what these fucking problems really are. You've got to adjust to the new data.
Yeah.
And people don't want to do that because they had these initial positions that they took. They dug their heels into the sand, and they pointed fingers at everybody who didn't do what they were supposed to do. And they didn't take into consideration that throughout history, pharmaceutical companies have been full of shit. And
We all know this.
We all know this.
And I don't want to shit on, I do want to shit on them, but they've done a lot of good things.
Sure.
There's a lot of medicines. There's a lot of great technology. People's lives have been saved. But we don't trust them.
You shouldn't. They're corporations that are only trying to make money.
All that stuff too that came out about the serotonin and antidepressants, and how there was no real link between
no real evidence that it's a chemical imbalance. None.
The thing they've sold us on antidepressants for decades.
Decades.
And everyone's like,
you're chemically imbalanced. Actually, there's no evidence you're chemically imbalanced. And there's also some evidence that they're not as effective as regular exercise and community and happiness and loved ones and purpose. And
yeah. No, I mean this, and I think another thing that made me optimistic, I'm trying to think of things that make me optimistic, like the NHS pulling back from the gender affirming care model.
Yeah.
That was pretty recent. And saying like, oh, science is not actually backing up that this is the correct way to deal with gender dysphoria in minors in particular.
Well, they're also faced with the real consequences of taking these hormone blockers.
Yeah.
Well, they're shown all these health risks that are happening, all these different things that are happening to kids. So these studies are coming out about these hormone blockers because the narrative was always you could pause it. And it doesn't affect you at all. Like, you don't know. First of all, this is not something you need long-term data on these things to really understand.
Your brain is insane when you're going through puberty, and you're gonna just stop that or add testosterone or something. How can you just fucking chill out? Can you just wait until?
Well, it's also like, why do you need? If someone they feel like they're in the wrong gender, they feel like they should be a woman or they should be a man. If you feel like you identify with a woman and you want to identify as a woman, why do you have to add stuff to your body that you don't even know what the effect is going to be? If you know what I'm saying? Like, that's this. You're talking about a different thing. Like, if you identify as a woman and you feel like you're a woman, just be a woman.
Yeah.
Decide you're a woman. Okay, I'm cool with that. But if you want, as a grown adult, to try to take hormones to accentuate that or to give you a better feeling of what it means to be a woman. Like, a woman should have estrogen. I want to take estrogen. That's your right.
Yeah.
You should be able to do that. But to impose that on kids when you don't necessarily know.
And I feel so bad for these parents because their kids are in crisis often, and they're getting bad advice. You know, they're going to professionals and they're saying, I don't know what to do, and they're like, well, let's just go with what the kid wants, and I think we should, write them a prescription. And I know people say it's not that quick, but there's tons.
It is that quick.
It is that quick.
It is that
I've
quick in
had
many places.
detransitioners on my podcast on Walk-Ins Welcome, and their stories are so important, and they all say there was barely more than like 1 or 2 interviews with, going wherever they went to get started on hormone blockers or started on testosterone or whatever. And even one young woman who came on, she was saying that she was old enough legally to make the decision, but she was still only 20. And I'm like, it's still... she's like, I want to take responsibility. I made this choice, but I'm like, your prefrontal cortex isn't even developed until you're like 25. You can't know. And like I've been saying too, about one of the things I've been kind of radicalized about since I had a kid is in particular with all of these young people who are being pushed to essentially become sterile in many cases when you start taking the blockers and start going down that road, it's not informed consent because you can't know until you know.
Well, you're a baby.
This is something you can't know until you know. I didn't even know I wanted kids or thought I wanted kids until I was like in my 30s. In my 20s, I probably would have been like, yeah, whatever, eat my teats if I was...
Yeet my teeth.
That's what they call it.
That's what they call it?
Yeah. It's like gut slang.
Well, there's also a thing that happens when you take testosterone. You have this euphoria. Like you
I'm
feel
sure.
It alleviates anxiety in many people. It gives you a different feeling.
Yeah. Testosterone's awesome.
And they decide like, oh, this is what I've been missing.
Yeah.
This is the real me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they're sold a lie that you can pause and go back, and you can't go back. How
did this happen?
I don't know. And what I don't understand is how in Europe, where they were kind of trailblazing in a lot of this, they're looking at the science and backing off and saying, we need to put on the brakes, not push this on young children and pump the brakes and stop, trying to get it's like crazy, but at least they're looking at the science and saying there's not enough evidence to suggest that there's less suicide if you start the gender affirming care model versus wait and see, which was the old model. And now in the United States, it feels like just fucking put the foot on the accelerator and go.
Do you think that's because in the United States the pharmaceutical industry has far more influence on people and society and the way things are done?
I mean, I don't know. I think there's definitely like a social contagion element to it.
Yes.
So there's that. If you have like a movement that's happening from the youth, then and it's everywhere, even though they want to say that it's not a social contagion, which I'm like, this, how can you be a person who's like my age and say, this isn't a social contagion? I'm like, look at, it happens in groups of friends. Like one 14-year-old will identify as they, and then pretty soon in particular among girls, then they'll all be identifying. This is, how can you look at that and be like, this isn't a social contagion? This has always been like this. No, it hasn't.
Well, if you look at the number, the uptick,
it's crazy.
is wild.
What I don't understand is how it's been so, and I just rack my brain and I try to have good faith, and I don't understand how it's been institutionalized. That's what even when I was in my like birthing class that I had to take online, or I didn't have to, but I took it online. And they were referring to everybody as birthing persons through the whole thing. And I wanted
feeders.
to fucking scream because it's like as far as I could tell from the Zoom, there just seemed to be a bunch of women. And I'm like, why can't you say women? Even if there's one person, why can't they handle being called a woman? Like,
right.
Why do we have to cater to the 0.01% of the population with this language and all of the language changes? And I think like they've changed it in, like federal documents, and
Here's a question.
I don't understand.
Here's a question, and has this been sorted out? You know, that as a person that has been pregnant and has given birth, there's a bunch of stuff you're not supposed to take while you're pregnant. Mm-hmm. It's just like you're breastfeeding. You said, "Can I take these nutrients that help your memory?" I don't know. I don't take it. You got to be careful.
You got to be careful about what skin stuff you use.
What about testosterone? Like when you see these pregnant men.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
What is are they off of it? Are they off of it?
I don't know. I would hope so. I would hope so.
Google, do pregnant men take testosterone while they're pregnant?
Like this.
Taking testosterone in pregnancy is not recommended. Do not stop taking testosterone before talking with the doctor who is prescribing it for you. If you stop taking testosterone, you'll probably start to have periods. You may also notice changes in your body shape around your hips, chest, and thighs. Oh, like you become a woman again? What the fuck? What does testosterone do to pregnant women? Click on that. Elevated maternal testosterone levels during human pregnancy are associated with growth restriction in utero. Our results support animal studies which have indicated that maternal androgen levels influence, how's that word? Intrauterine offspring, environment, and development.
Right, of course it does.
So what happens to those babies that are giving birth from pregnant men?
It's associated with growth restriction.
There's a lot of women that push back on the idea of someone taking estrogen that's a biological male and becoming a female. But very few men really give a shit about a trans man being called a man. Have you noticed that? There's not like hey, we're fucking men. That's not a man. Elliot Page is not a man. Men don't do that. We don't care.
Yeah,
you know why?
That's interesting.
Because it doesn't encroach into male spaces the way testosterone, like a biological male that decides to become a female encroaches into female spaces and tends to use like male behavior,
right.
and especially in sports, like this male dominance of female places, like Leah Thomas.
Right.
Like that's a classic example of a biological male dominating a female space, but you don't see any of that.
Yeah.
So there's no threat. So like a trans man, someone who becomes a man, they just like buck angel, like, hey, all right, you're a man. Like, cool guy. Like, I'll call you a man.
All right, bro.
Like, you seem cool.
Yeah.
I like him. He's cool. I like
He's
hanging
amazing.
out with him. He's a great guy.
I love Buck.
But there's no pushback. Zero pushback.
Yeah.
Because there's no advantage in a sense, like they don't dominate male spaces. Like if all of a sudden if there was some crazy benefit like a female, a biological female who takes testosterone and then decides to become a trans man and identifies as a man, but then just starts dominating male spaces, men would be like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm a real man. I'm a fucking man.
Yeah.
You're not a man. Like, men
Yeah.
would get mad, but there's zero pushback. Men don't, like, Elliot Page, like, there was a lot of people that were, like, ideologically opposed to it or didn't think it was right or thought it was a bad decision, but, hey, that's on you.
Right.
No men push back against that.
Yeah, I understand why women would push back, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been screaming women forever, and you definitely.
That's our text group.
Yeah.
That's the name of our text group.
you see it, like, and there's a reason for female spaces. I interviewed a couple of the women from the Women's Liberation Front, and they're suing some of the California corrections for allowing people to just self-identify into female prisons.
With penises and getting women pregnant.
Predators!
Yes.
People who are known predators.
Known predators have been arrested as being predators.
Yes.
Not just like, I think that guy might be fucking fishy.
Not like, oh, he stole something from a convenience store and now he wants
Not
to...
even like he's a player. Like sexual predators.
Being like, I'm a girl now, and then they go into a female prison. And nobody... Where are the women? Where are the feminists? I don't understand. Where are the feminists?
Well, they're afraid of being ostracized. They're afraid of being attacked because it does happen.
Yeah.
You see it with so many of these women like J.K. Rowling or Meghan or, fill in the blank, Abigail Schreier, these women who come out and oppose this, they get attacked.
Yeah.
But you don't see that from men. Like, men don't seem to care at all about trans men becoming men.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're a man.
Yeah, it's definitely getting aggressive too. The protesting, it's like trans women will show up and protest some of these feminists and they'll get aggressive and violent.
Yes. Male, like masculine, like men do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're biological males, and biological males tend to approach situations in a different way. Have you seen that thing recently where I think it was at a Matt Walsh, he was giving a speech, and there was these women that were holding up these signs, and this trans woman is standing in this lady's face, fucking screaming at her, like, fuck you, bitch, and like, there's one of them was my favorite. It was after Roe v. Wade. There was this trans woman who was protesting Roe v. Wade. Keep your laws out of my pussy!
What?
Yes.
But they'll come after people like my friends who are feminists or me online if you're saying like, oh, if you're pushing for, this is important about women and women's reproductive health, and they'll be like, it's not fair for you to leave us out of the conversation. And it's like, bro, I mean...
You can't reproduce.
But
like that.
It's also just hijacking a whole movement, and it's
Yeah.
insane to me how quickly the conversation about all of this, like birthing persons, the minute Roe v. Wade stopped, like, oh, suddenly we're using women again? Because it matters.
Yeah, because it does matter.
But I just, the thing that is baffling to me, and I cannot get my mind around it, is just how it's been, again, captured institutionally.
Yeah.
That's all of these things I would be like, oh, we'll just outgrow this as a country. But it's institutionalized, so much of this. And then you see on like big tech where you get punished, maybe silently or algorithmically, is that a word? If you're even pushing back against it or questioning it.
You can't even have an opinion. Like Meghan, what she got banned from Twitter for was saying a man is never a woman. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what she said. She was arguing. I think it was about that case.
Yaniv.
Yeah, the guy who was a biological male, was going with a penis, fully functional.
That was the guy, or the trans woman up in Canada
Yeah.
who was like suing the people at the salon.
Yeah, shut down.
For not waxing her balls.
Her balls and dick. This person went to different salons and was making them wax her junk. And they were like, hey, we're not here for dicks. Like, we only do vaginas.
But didn't it come out, too, that person is a predator?
Yeah, of course. Of course. And mentally ill. Yeah. One of my favorite ones is this trans woman with a beard and wearing a dress that said, some women have penises, and if you don't like that, you can suck my dick.
That's what we joked about on freaking Dumpster Fire years ago, is that we were so close to suck my dick, bigot.
Yes.
And it's here.
Yes, it's here. It's here and it's normalized, and people will say it, and they'll put it in signs.
Yeah, no, it's
fine.
Fine if you want to go turf hunting.
Yeah, you want to go turf hunting.
You can go
Look at
out.
fucking J.K. Rowling, man. I mean, she's getting dragged through the fucking mud.
She is, she's so reasonable, and people are like, all she had to do was be quiet, and all she had to do was enjoy her billions. And it's like, yeah, and she's not. She's fighting for women's spaces.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to, and she's fighting for these young girls who don't know any better. She's fighting. Yeah, she didn't have to do that. She could have ignored all of this and just enjoyed her money, and she's not.
And I think a lot of the people that jumped in on that pylon, they're going to recognize years from now how fucked up that was.
I want people to I would like when people interview I just want people on record saying that they're for this. It's like, okay, you believe in gender affirming care. Do you know what that means? That means puberty blockers. That means giving kids different sex hormones. That means like basically child mutilation. You are on record saying that you are for this, because I don't think it will stand the test of time.
Yeah, it's castration of prepubescent males in many cases.
Oh, God, the stories. I mean, the stories are sad. Those are some of the saddest. It's so sad what happens to detransitioners who come out and push back. And
they get attacked.
Yeah, you would think if you're comfortable in your movement and your choice, like if someone's like, yeah, I drink, I'm not like, you drink? You must be a fucking alcoholic then, because I quit drinking. Like, if you're comfortable in your choice, you don't need to attack people for having a different opinion.
Yeah. Or if someone does quit drinking and people say, what are you, a fucking pussy?
Yeah.
You can't handle the booze?
Yeah, they're always...
You're not one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just let people make their choices, but I don't think with I don't know, it's like...
But it's
messing
just
with children is not
prevalent.
right.
It's wild how prevalent it is.
I know.
And it's wild how this logical perspective is shunned.
Yeah, it's not shunned, but silenced.
Yeah.
You'll
attacked.
get attacked. People are afraid to say this around their friend groups. It's another way to kind of signal that you're part of the high status in group, is to be like, boys and girls aren't different.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah, it's real strange. It's real strange to just openly accept all this stuff without any pushback.
I think there will be pushback, though. Again, I think we're seeing it in Europe, and they were like leaders of this kind of movement, and now it seems like they're coming to their senses a little bit and following science. I don't necessarily see that, although we might see it in the midterms. You know, like, people tend to voice their opinion on these things at the ballot when they don't have to voice their opinion.
And there are a lot of people that are afraid of talking about it.
Right.
But they're not afraid of voting about it.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that are afraid of the reprisal. They're afraid of getting attacked. And they'll silently, when they're amongst friends, going, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And those people, that's going to be responsible for the red wave. I think the red wave that's coming is going to be like the elevator doors opening up in The Shining. That's what I think. I think people are just like, what the fuck are you saying? They're making Republicans.
I don't know how they're doing it. I had a family member who's a boomer and a diehard liberal, and they told me when I was home this summer that they would vote for DeSantis, and I'm like, how did you lose this person?
Yeah.
How did you lose this person? This is a like, go to the ballot and vote blue no matter what, and you've lost even the boomers.
You've lost a lot of them that aren't talking about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. You know, you're seeing in New York City, Hochul, debating that Republican candidate, that guy gained ground. Like, they're worried about New York becoming Republican, which is wild.
I was reading last night an article about in Oregon, there's an independent woman running, and then a Democrat and a Republican, and the Republican they think might win. Biden was in Oregon, like, stumping for the Democratic candidate because they're so worried Oregon's going to have a Republican governor the first time in 40 years.
That's wild.
Oregon.
Well, it almost happened in New York City, or in New Jersey, rather.
Oregon.
New Jersey got down to the wire, and New Jersey's another place like that. It's always been Democrat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I really think that all the polls and all that stuff, that's indicative of like the mindset of a lot of people that are willing to take polls.
Which is not that many
Not
people.
that many, but there's a lot of people silently that are like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And it's not just that, it's crime. Crime is a big one. The way they're handling crime, the way they're releasing people that are committing violent crimes and then putting them right back on the street. People are freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
The way they're handling the homeless situation.
Yep.
The way they're, you see, we looked at this video the other day of in Portland. They were showing discarded needles that they've collected from the streets. They had fucking barrels of them.
Yeah.
Barrels and barrels of these discarded needles. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's so quick.
And it's what's crazy too is there's just this like fundamental disdain for the tax-paying people.
Look at this. This is this guy. Look at this. Give me volume on this.
Whoa, that is fucking insane.
Look at this.
How many is that?
Who fucking know? A demonstration of how many used needles picked up off the streets.
Probably 100 pounds.
How like what is the why is he putting his hand
Well,
in
they're all
there?
destroyed. They destroy them. Those are all destroyed needles that they found in Portland.
That whole bag, used rigs.
How over the course of how long? Like a year?
No, they're not keeping them.
I want to know how long this was.
I don't know, but look at how many.
Oh
of them
my
there are.
God,
It's insane.
yeah.
And that's them cleaning it
Oregon.
up. Yeah.
This is why they might have
Yeah.
a Republican governor.
Yeah.
I mean, but like I was saying, the disdain they have for the tax-paying, just like hardworking person, where it feels like they will prioritize the criminal before they prioritize the people who just want safe parks for their kids and are paying taxes. I don't understand that.
How did that narrative even begin to get established? That's what's so confusing to me. And the big conspiracy theory is George Soros is trying to destroy America, and he's funding these left-wing politicians and progressive, district attorneys, and then he'll fund an even more progressive one to run against them.
Why is he trying to destroy America?
I think he thinks it's fun.
Oh.
I think that's his hobby. I don't know. That's the conspiracy
That's
theory.
a conspiracy?
But
Is
he
that he's
spent
just like-
billions of dollars on campaigns.
So you think this is how it's just like been institutionalized and been...
Well, if you wanted to do it,
yeah,
that's how you would do it. You would fund
like
someone
DAs and
fund district attorneys,
Yep.
fund politicians that are like super progressive and want to let criminals out and want to, institute laws that don't keep people safe.
yeah.
That's how you would destroy cities. If you really wanted to do it, that's how you would do it.
I mean, talk about the Joker letting prisoners free.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all projection.
Yeah. Do you remember when that happened? When that movie came out? I remember I went to see it with my wife, and we were in the movie theater, and we were watching the Joker, and she was like, "This seems a little too close to
It's
what's
a little
possible."
on the nose,
It's
yeah.
a little too on the nose. I mean, that was the best version of the Joker ever.
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 That
Because
movie's amazing.
it's fucking good. And
Yeah.
they're doing a Joker 2 right now.
Oh, really?
Which is like, where are they going to? Are they going to predict the future even further? Because you got to remember, the Joker 1 came out before the pandemic, and everything accelerated during the pandemic.
Remember, they were like, there are going to be shootings
Yeah.
because of this movie. There are going to be shootings in the movie theaters, and they came out and nothing happened, and they
But
were
it
like,
did
oh,
sort of project this feeling that a lot of people that are disenfranchised had.
Yeah.
That the real problem is the rich people and the powerful, and we just need to fucking anarchy and take over and shoot everybody.
Yeah.
And you saw that during the BLM protests. Like, some people were sort of embracing that.
But it's weird. They didn't necessarily go after like the people in power and the rich people. A lot of the destruction happened to like very small businesses. And in the pandemic, one of the things that broke me is the largest transfer of wealth upwardly occurred during the pandemic. And
Yeah.
you saw the destruction of small business. My friend Carol Roth is brilliant on this and wrote a book, The War on Small Business, all about this. And it is maddening what happened during the pandemic to small businesses in particular, which are a huge backbone of America. But they don't really like small businesses because they're independent.
Right.
They're like, you can't really control them.
But do you think that that was a conspiracy, or do you think that that was just a byproduct of bad policy? If you want to be conspiratorially minded, you'd say it's a grand, orchestrated conspiracy to promote the Great Reset. That's the narrative.
Right. And I mean, perhaps it is. Like,
Really?
I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy. I'm generally like Michael Shermer, who I think you recently had on. He's a skeptic. I generally lean towards like how many people would have to believe this in order for it to be true, or keep it a secret in order for it to be true. People can't keep secrets.
Yeah, but at the World Economic Forum, they're not keeping secrets.
No, they're being open
talking
about it
openly.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's working on another book, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it, but I believe it's addressing a lot of these policies that are like the kind of idea that you will own nothing, you'll live in a pod, you'll eat bugs. But the small business stuff was infuriating because you had things like Walmart allowed to stay open, little local store had to shut down. So these little mom and pops all got destroyed. And even during the George Floyd riots, I used to live in Minneapolis. One of the places I went to after rehab was right down the street from that police station on Lake Street that like burned down. And that neighborhood is all small businesses. And I still get emails for them. They're like 2 years later and we're raising more money, and they're still rebuilding. They're still trying to bring back, the 2 years after the damage, they're still trying to fundraise and bring back. It was very destructive for people. They lost their whole business and livelihoods.
Yeah, and it takes a long time for things to come back.
Yeah.
It's easy to destroy things.
Yeah.
But to rebuild them,
yeah,
it takes forever.
Yeah. I mean, you see it with natural disasters like the hurricane in Florida, which weirdly, I mean, the destruction down there is so bad. That's a weird one too. I don't know why that didn't get it feels like it just came through and then they're like, well, good luck, Florida.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of the narrative with like the people of Florida. Yeah, well, that's what you get for denying climate change.
Oh my God, that's
which is crazy.
Not a charitable way to go through life.
Horrible, because how many of those people were actually left wing? How many of those people are Democrats? How many of those people didn't deny climate change? They just happen to live in Florida.
Yeah.
They got fucked by a natural disaster.
Yeah.
It used to be like people had sympathy for people during natural disasters.
Yeah. It's a weird time to be in America. I mean, it's definitely like. It feels on edge, everyone feels a little bit on edge, and like the Joker movie. And you said this is at its core, I think it is a class war. It's just masked by all of this division. And
Right.
I do think there's a lot of resentment and people are mad, but they're not, it's easier to like be mad at your neighbor than it is to be mad at Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
But did you see that freaking amazing? It went viral. It was the guy right after Roe v. Wade, and he was mad at the Democrats for sending him emails. And he was like, quit sending me emails. And he starts going through how much all of the people who are sending him emails, Democratic leaders, were worth.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, they were asking for money.
I should find. Yeah.
After Roe v. Wade, they're like, you got to give us money. I mean, they just it was total opportunism.
Yeah, but he's like, Nancy Pelosi. It's the funniest rant.
Did you see her husband got attacked last night?
Yeah, I saw
Some guy
that.
broke into their house and attacked him with a hammer.
Do they know why?
I don't know.
Was it like
I just saw the story
Supposedly
earlier.
he was asking where Nancy was.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He attacked the husband with a hammer, hit him in the head with a fucking hammer.
Oh, geez.
How bad is he?
Is he okay?
I believe I read non-life-threatening injuries, but he is in the hospital. I think he was having surgery. I'm checking.
That's scary. How do they have no security?
Yeah, how do
Isn't
they
she
not
like
know
the
that people
third?
hate them?
Isn't she like the third in line though for being president?
The assailant was yelling, "Where is Nancy?" According to a person briefed in the assault. Her husband, Paul Pelosi, was hospitalized, and the police said the suspect would be charged with attempted homicide. So what happened? Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, was violently assaulted by a man who broke into the couple's home in San Francisco early Friday morning. David DePape, 42, said they were investigating a possible motive. The suspect is David DePape, They were investigating a possible motive. The details. San Francisco police responded to a break-in at Paul Pelosi's residence at 2:27 a.m. Friday, Chief William Scott said in a news conference the assailant who pulled a hammer from Mr. Pelosi and violently attacked him in front of police officers. What? The intruder was in search of Speaker Pelosi, according to a person briefed in the attack, and confronted Mr. Pelosi in the couple's home, shouting, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" A spokesperson for the speaker said in a statement that Mr. Pelosi, 82, was taken to the hospital where he was receiving excellent medical care.
What?
Person with the same... So he might have had a hammer and the guy took the hammer from him? Because it said he pulled a hammer from Mr. Pelosi and violently attacked him in front of the police.
What? This story is so weird.
How did the police not stop that
How
from
did
happening?
they not stop that?
A person with the same name as the suspect posted a number of conspiracy theories on social media. What does that mean?
What?
I don't like how you said that. Like, tell me what he posted. Don't say conspiracy theories to make it seem like he was crazy. Although it could not be confirmed whether the posts were linked to the intruder, Mrs. Pelosi was in Washington, D.C. with her protective detail at the time of the break-in. So she
that's
has
weird.
a protective detail.
Yeah, but they're rich enough to have security. Come on now.
Duh. Well, they stole enough money to fund security for a long time. They've been involved in fucking insider trading forever.
I mean, that's what this rant is about. I sent it to you if you want to play it. It's the most amazing thing. 3 San Francisco police officers responding to an emergency call burst into the home of Speaker Nancy Pelosi in the early morning to find her 82-year-old husband and an intruder grappling over a hammer. What?
Yeah, so he pulled out a hammer, tried to stop this guy. That's all he has? Because in San Francisco, it's hard to get a gun. As Police Chief William Scott described the scene of a news conference later in the day, the intruder ripped the hammer out of the grip of the Speaker's husband, Paul Pelosi, and violently assaulted him with it in front of the officers.
Jesus, this is just, what are these officers doing?
Wow.
I sent you the rant.
What is it?
It's the rant of the
That you
guy.
did?
No,
Oh,
it's
guy?
the guy that I was talking about who did the most hilarious rant. It is, and I think he really tapped into a lot of the.
I have to pee really bad, so
Yeah.
I'm going to send this to Jamie, and then we'll come right back. Here, Jamie, I'll send you this. Bam. We'll be right back. Okay, play that rant.
It's the best. I mean, maybe not in light of what happened to Mr. Pelosi, but
Well, let's see it.
I hope he recovers. I love this guy.
About this. I'm not,
He's a
because
Democrat.
I can't yell at the Republicans. They're not going to change. They are who they are. We're stuck with them. We're not going to change them. You can't shame them. You can't convince them. You can't trick them. You can't fucking outplan them. But I can yell at the Democratic Party. And I can tell them where they can at least make one fucking small change to stop pissing me the fuck off every hour right now. Stop sending me fundraising requests right now. Okay? The Republican Party had a plan for the last 50 years to overturn Roe v. Wade. We had a leak 5 weeks ago telling us that this exact thing was going to happen. And your response after 5 weeks of careful study and planning and thought has been to send us nonstop fundraising emails. All right? So let me just read you a quick list. Mark Warner. He's the Democratic senator from Virginia. He's worth $214.1 million. Don Beyer, he's a Democratic Virginia House member. He's worth $124.9 million. Dean Phillips, he's a Minnesota House member. He is worth $123.8 million. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the fucking House of the Democratic Party from California, is worth $114.7 million. Dianne Feinstein, who doesn't know where the fuck she is right now, the senator from California, part of the Democratic Party, is worth $87.9 million. You guys want money? Fucking call your guy. You call him every week to do insider trading. Stop fucking sending me emails. Stop sending me fucking texts. Stop fucking reading poems and singing goddamn karaoke. You have power. You have it. You're in those seats. We're the ones who are powerless. Stop fucking pretending you're protesting. If you don't want to fucking do it or it's too hard, fucking retire. You're rich as shit. You don't need to do anything. If I had $114.7 million, Nancy Pelosi, you know what I'd do? First thing, I'd get my fucking husband a driver so he didn't get a goddamn DUI. Second thing, you know what I'd do? I'd be on a fucking boat. $114.7 million. And you want to send me a fucking email asking me for $15? Bitch, in the last 3 years, you sent us, what, 1.5 checks? Stop it. The Democratic Party has lost the thread completely. All leadership of the Democratic Party needs to be thrown out and replaced. And here's the thing, if you're over 65 or you're worth, I don't know, let's just do an arbitrary number here, $10.7 million, you're done. You're not in leadership. Because that is the poorest member of the top 50.
It's crazy.
Democratic members of the House. You don't care. You don't care. You just want to stay in the seat. Fuck you.
Good for him.
So it went viral.
Good for him.
It's so
That's
good.
That's fucking good.
It's so good. Those
for
are the
that
people that I think everyone is mad. It is like, how are they so rich? They're supposed to be public servants.
How'd they get that rich?
They're supposed
Insider trading.
I know. I talked to this woman who has a oh God, I'm totally blanking right now and I want to get her name right. What was the other video you were going to play, Jamie? I'm going to remember her name. Was there another video that he sent?
Yeah, the people trolling Twitter headquarters.
Okay.
We'll play this. Let's see.
Is that happening?
Yeah. These are people that are pretending to be Twitter employees that were fired.
His own words. What do you make of that? What do you think Twitter will look like?
I mean, if free speech is, Nazis saying that, trans women shouldn't, use women's locker rooms, then awesome. I guess mission accomplished. We'll see. Listen, I got to touch base with my husband and wife. I got to get out of here, all right? Thank you, guys. Sorry. Daniel, thank you.
Well, that's not that good.
No,
My
wait, yeah,
husband
but
and
just like
wife.
they're not digging into it. Him and the other guy that were with him had fake names that were like Ligma Johnson. Those were the last names, and that's like internet culture for like suck my dick.
Ligma Johnson. Yeah. I have to go touch base with my husband and wife.
My husband and wife.
Well, that's not that good. Not compared to that last rant.
Oh God, I watch it like once. It gives me life. It just.
That's the Joker. The Joker revolts against that shit. I mean, that's the shit that should infuriate everybody.
It should infuriate all of us.
Super wealthy people that have gotten wealthy by scamming the system, and that's what they're doing. They're pretending that they're helping people. They're pretending that they're in that position of power and they're going to help people. They're going to help people. And Nancy, do you think you should stop insider trading? No.
She'll publicly say she's for it, and privately, probably undermine the whole thing.
When they first confronted her, she said, I think we should be allowed to participate.
Of course you do.
Of course you do. You made $100 million on $100,000 a year salary. It's fucking bananas.
That's that rage. I felt it in my soul, and it really was it tapped into my 20-year-old liberal roots. I know I've said before on here I was AOC in my 20s.
Yeah.
And I really understand that, because say what you want about AOC, but she's working class. She came from the working class and was a bartender. So I feel like at least it's nice to have someone, and they hate her because she's.
But don't you think you start that way? And then when you get into that system, if you want to succeed in that system, you become a part of that system.
Yeah.
You become what does that system amplify? What does that system reward? It rewards compliance with the party. And that's what she seems to be doing. And that's why, at her town halls, they become a clusterfuck now, because people are screaming at her. You're supporting war.
Yeah.
You're supporting sending money to Ukraine. It's going to get us all fucking killed.
Yeah.
You've seen all that. That is wild.
Yeah, I saw something.
And the thing is, she's the one who said that we should make these people uncomfortable.
Right.
We should make people uncomfortable. But now it's coming back to her.
Right. Well, because now she's in power.
Well, these fucking people, when they get into that position, they realize, what is that position? You want to be president? Do you want to play ball?
Yeah.
You want to keep fucking kicking ass and get further up the ladder? Maybe you can help people when you do. Maybe you can help people, but you got to play ball. And they're all playing ball. And she's playing ball.
Yeah. I think that I'm thinking of this podcast I did the other day with this woman, and I think it's called, oh my gosh, again, my brain is mush. My brain is mush. But I like giving people the right credit when it's due. And she has this podcast, and she came on and was talking about how really it's like they do the best faith interpretation is that these leaders do think they're helping people, but it's helping one another. They're helping the investor class is what she called it, and not the working class. And so she's like, well, Nancy Pelosi they just aren't dealing with people who work for a paycheck.
Yeah.
They're working with people who make their money in dividends. And so they are helping those people and they're helping themselves.
Yeah. And then they do things where it's a signal that they're doing the right thing. Like one of the things that Biden did. Biden came out and said, we are going to release all the people that are in jail for marijuana possession in federal prisons.
But it was like no one.
There's no one. That's how many people are in jail for marijuana possession in federal prisons.
Because they all pretty much have been released.
Yeah.
It's usually they have another crime attached if they're still in jail.
Right.
For marijuana possession.
The people that are in jail federally are growers.
Right.
And, how about release those people? If it's okay to possess it, why isn't it okay to grow it?
It's called Congressional Dish. And it's this woman, Jennifer Briney. She came on my podcast and she was talking about what she does with her podcast, which I really should start listening to, is she gets into like every bill and what's being put into it. So she'll look deeply into the bills.
Which is a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Because those things are huge.
A lot of work. And she'll go, and she, I asked her, like, how do you get over your biases? She's like, I'm just open about my bias because I don't think you can get around them. And so she has this podcast where she'll go in and look at like some of the crazy stuff that gets passed attached to one bill that's for one thing. I just don't understand how, again, that's legal.
Give us an example.
Like she gave the example of, let me think. The bill that she was talking about that a lot of things were attached to was, I think there was a lot of stuff with like the PPP loans where and last minute things get attached all the time. The example she gave was of the government like shutdowns, the debt ceiling, and they'll always cram in all these different things that they want to pass because they're basically like, nice government you have there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. And then they try and get these other crazy things that have nothing to do with the government shutting down.
Like what?
Oh gosh. Why is my brain mush, Joe? There was one with the debt ceiling recently that she was talking about, and I cannot for the life of me remember it. It was. They're always doing this. You can.
But that's commonplace.
It's common to do
this.
That's
what they do. Like, and they'll put it in a bill that has a name like "Let's help poor kids." Let's help poor kids bill. But I
wish I had a better example. Yeah. There's Justin Amash, when he was on the podcast, was talking about how it shouldn't be like this. It should be like you have a bill for one thing, and it's not 2,000 pages that no one's read that they get 2 days before it's supposed to pass.
Right.
With everybody's kind of special interests that they've tacked in. I wish I had a better. There are so many good examples of just like ridiculous things tacked into bills that are ostensibly for one thing, and then it's like, but we need to.
But how does that ever get fixed? If people become a part of that system once they get elected, and then they go to Washington and they see how it all works, and they see what it takes to succeed, and that's the job that they're in. They're in this business to try to succeed. And you want to keep getting elected, and you want to keep working with all those people. That's your job now.
Yeah, but it's not working with all the people. It's the special interests who they're being funded by. It's like the pharmaceutical companies and whoever might be funding their next campaign. So they're not working for the people.
Of course.
They're working for the corporations.
That's what I mean.
How do you fix this? I would say you would make it so that you would have to pass a law where it has to just be one thing per bill, which we could do. It doesn't have to be like this. You could set maybe term limits so we don't have insane people who are in their 80s and don't know where they are running the country still. I think there are definitely ways we could fix it, but the problem is the people empowered, they don't want to fix it. You need people in these positions who don't necessarily want power, but
and
nobody wants to run for that.
Corporate-run media that's just gaslighting everybody.
Right, of course.
To try to, like we were talking about the debate, how MSNBC was like, what has a problem forming a sentence, but he doesn't have any cognitive decline.
The Fetterman-Oz debate?
Yeah, how the fuck do you know he doesn't have cognitive decline?
Can
like,
he drive?
Seems like he does.
I want to know if he can drive. I feel like that would be a good sign of whether or not he has cognitive decline.
Right.
I have cognitive decline from being a mom. No, that I couldn't even watch it. It felt mean.
That's what I wanted to know. Find out if that debate is actually being removed from the internet. See if you can find the debate, because that's the Reddit conspiracy thread, is that people are removing that debate, and it's difficult to find. Like Duncan was telling me this last night, and I said I need to look into that. Is that true?
What are the polls saying? Like after that, it feels. What is maddening about this situation with this debate, which I couldn't even, people on Twitter were saying it was really bad and like it was hard to watch. And I think if you have any empathy, this is hard to watch. But it's also maddening because how entitled are you as a party that you're just going to be like, you have to vote for this person or you're ableist? They're calling people ableist for not supporting Fetterman.
A guy with some clear brain issue.
Yeah.
He literally had a stroke 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And I had Dr. Phil on yesterday, and Dr. Phil was explaining like the worst thing that you can do. The worst thing you could do for someone like that is put him in a position of stress.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to watch. We used to kind of give like Biden, we used to make fun of Biden all the time on Dumpster Fire because he's the most powerful man in the world and you should, but lately it just feels sad.
Did you find the debate? It's available?
I found a bunch of clips. I found the debate.
So the Reddit people are full of shit?
You probably can't upload somebody else's content in one way. So.
Well, this is Florida.
This is a news debate about the whole thing. Then
so this is a news piece. This is a news opinion piece about the debate. See if you can find the actual debate.
I've definitely found clips of it.
Yeah, but is the actual debate available?
The primary source.
Because people are saying, oh, well, the clips, they're taking them out of context. And if you look at the whole thing, he didn't do that bad. And he made some really good points. And he had some good comebacks. I don't like the fact that he wears hoodies everywhere. Like, I wear hoodies, but this is because this is what I actually wear.
Why do you think he wears them?
Because he wants to look like a common man. He's literally wearing Carhartt hoodies.
Oh.
That's contrived. Like, you know what Carhartt is?
Yeah, of course.
They're like working class, like real durable clothes. They make great shit.
Best pants.
Make great everything.
Yeah.
It's all fucking super durable stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So he's wearing that. Like, I'm a hard working man.
Yeah.
I'm out there.
I'm a working class dude. What did he do?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
he was working class.
Yeah, so here's the actual debate.
This is an hour-long video.
Okay, but so that's not true. So people that were saying that it's not true, they haven't removed the debate.
We've fact-checked something.
Yeah, we fact-checked this. So play some of it.
Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that needs to get back up and fighting for all forgotten communities all across Pennsylvania that also got knocked down, that needs to get back up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fetterman. Mr. Oz, you are a doctor, a businessman, and television personality. But this is your first run for elected office. What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania? You have 60 seconds.
I'm running for the U.S. Senate because Washington keeps getting it wrong with extreme positions. I want to bring civility, balance, all the things that you want to see because you've been telling it to me on the campaign trail. And by doing that, we can bring us together in a way that has not been done of late. Democrats, Republicans talking to each other. John Fetterman takes everything to an extreme, and those extreme positions hurt us all. Let's take crime as an example because it's been such a big problem. Maureen Faulkner accompanied me today to the studio. You know that her husband was a police officer in Philadelphia, was brutally murdered. John Fetterman, during this crime wave, has been trying to get as many murderers convicted and sentenced to life in prison out of jail as possible, including people who are similar to the man who murdered her husband. He does it without with the rest of the parole board agreeing. He's doing it without the families on board. These radical positions extend beyond crime to wanting to legalize all drugs, to open the border, to raising our taxes. I want Washington to be civil again. We need it to be less radical. John Fetterman, unfortunately, would bring that.
Mr. Oz, thank you. Lisa.
Hold on, stop, pause. How crazy is it that you have someone who is running for the Senate and it's an extremely influential and powerful position, and you limit their expression to, what was that, 30 seconds?
I mean, I think I speak for most Americans.
Ding, 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 ding. That's enough.
I think I speak for most Americans when I say these are our options. This is the
Well,
this is
what
the
he
best
said
we can
sounded
do.
fairly reasonable.
Did you?
I mean,
Yeah,
if
but
he really
he's-
wants to bring people together.
Didn't they used to talk for hours before they had these things, though? I think they
Yeah.
would go for days, maybe sometimes.
Well, that's what Lincoln used to do. They used to do it with no microphone.
Like, wrap it up. Get
Oz
it together.
had a big gaffe too, where he was trying to be like a common man in a grocery store that went viral. It was
Who?
so bad. Oz.
Well, Oz was investigated for promoting fake weight loss. Do you know that?
No.
Like he was brought in front of Congress. This was a real issue. Google this. Oz promoted something that he's a doctor. He's an actual doctor. And he promoted something that he was calling a miracle weight loss cure because they were selling it.
Right.
And they were selling it on his fucking show, which is, Dr. Oz.
Right.
So he's supposed to be an expert. And he's saying it's a miracle weight loss cure. It didn't do fucking jack shit. Listen, there's no miracle weight loss
No.
cure. It doesn't exist. Actually, there's this semaglutide that a lot of the celebrities are taking.
Is
that
it new?
Yeah, it's some peptide.
I feel like I've heard about
this.
this.
Is new that the Kardashians are supposed to be taking. Dr. Oz hit with class action over miracle weight loss supplement claims. Yeah, but he was actually forced to testify about this, and he admitted that it was not true. I had a bit I was doing it for a while. That he's Oprah's bitch, and that Oprah's his pimp, and that she's like, basically, you don't let my girl back on the street, right? Because like she makes a lot of money off of his show.
Yeah.
If you have a fucking doctor show and you say something that is absolutely not true, and you're selling something that's absolutely not a miracle, you probably shouldn't be doing that anymore.
Isn't what? Oh,
Find
yeah.
out what he was forced to testify, and see if we can find the video.
Wasn't there some controversy with Dr. Phil too, or is that someone else that I'm thinking of?
I don't know about that. We'll find out. But he's my boy, so shut the fuck up. Product safety and insurance.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Product safety and insurance during a hearing on false advertising in the diet and weight loss industry. He presented his role clearly as the victim of unscrupulous advertisers' vicious attempts to twist his words to sell diet pills. He was perfectly positioned to help Congress curb the tide of deceptive advertising. There was only one problem with the doctor's plan. Inside the hearing room, the members of the subcommittee had cast him in a different role, not as the victim of scheming fraudsters, but as the fraudster himself.
And I
Scroll
repeat,
down.
these are our options.
For the duration of the hour-long hearing, members of the subcommittee lined up one after another to grill America's doctor for statements he made on the Dr. Oz show, his daytime cable program on health and wellness, laying into him for endorsements of the miraculous powers of green coffee extract and the fat-burning magic of raspberry ketone. From his spot behind the witness table, Oz refused to back down. He brandished printouts of scientific studies to defend his statements about various weight loss supplements and cited transcripts of his TV appearances to show how advertisers had taken his words out of context. At one point, during the question and answer portion of the testimony, Senator Claire McCaskill, the subcommittee's chair, drew visibly agitated at Oz's evasiveness, blurting out, "I've tried to do a lot of research in preparation for this trial, and the scientific community is almost monolithic against you." It was a hearing, not a trial, but McCaskill's slip was telling. The committee was trying to put pseudoscience on trial, and Oz was the star witness. 7 years after his dressing down at Capitol Hill, Oz is making a bid to return to Washington.
Wow.
See if you can find the testimony, because the testimony, he was forced to say that it wasn't a weight loss miracle.
Did he get in trouble at all?
Yeah, I think he got fined.
Oh, okay.
But I need to find out if that's true. Senators scold Dr. Oz for diet. Just click on that. Let's see what it says, because it's only a minute and a half.
This is the options. These are
Yeah.
options. A fraudster and a stroke victim.
Well, maybe he was scam. I mean, I don't know. What the fuck? Let's see what actually happened. Here it goes.
Out, Dr. Oz. I get that you do a lot of good on your show. I understand that you give a lot of information that's great information about health, and you do it in a way that's easily understandable. You're very talented. You're obviously very bright. You've been trained in science-based medicine. Now, here's 3 statements you made on your show. You may think magic is make-believe, but this little bean has scientists saying they found the magic weight loss cure for every body type. It's green coffee extract. Quote, I've got the #1 miracle in a bottle to burn your fat. It's raspberry ketone. Quote, Garcinia cambogia, it may be the simple solution you've been looking for to bust your body fat for good. I don't get why you need to say this stuff because you know it's not true.
I actually do personally believe in the items that I talk about in the show. I passionately study them. I recognize that oftentimes they don't have the scientific muster to present as fact, but nevertheless, I would give my audience the advice I give my family all the time, and I've given my family these products.
And when you call a product a miracle and it's something you can buy and it's something that gives people false hope, I just don't understand why you need to go there.
My job, I feel, on the show is to be a cheerleader for the audience. And when they don't think they have hope, when they don't think they can make it happen, I want to look, and I do look everywhere, including in alternative healing traditions, for any evidence that might be supportive to them.
I will just tell you that I know you feel that you're a victim, but sometimes conduct invites being a victim.
Now, let's Google whether or not that shit actually works. Does any of that shit actually work? It's certainly not a miracle. There's no fucking miracles when it comes to weight loss. It's real calories in, calories out. And it's also some things that promote inflammation, like we talked about with seed oils and, processed corn syrup and all that shit. It makes people fatter. And it also promotes excess calorie consumption because it's very addictive. That stuff, yeah, if you can get that out of your diet, but it's not a miracle.
No.
It's science. It's real clear cause and effect.
But did he think this was science?
Maybe.
I suddenly had a vision of you being like, Nero, this gum does work.
Yeah, but it does. There's science behind that.
No,
That's the difference. It's double-blind, placebo-controlled
But that's what I'm wondering.
Here it goes.
Did he think there was
There
science?
is no evidence that raspberry ketones cause weight loss in humans. And rat studies that suggest they may work use massive doses.
Huh.
Like,
was he
rats probably got
misled?
sick from it and didn't eat as much.
Yeah.
Massive doses of raspberry ketones.
They're like, this is
The
gross.
rats are like, I'm just going to fucking lose weight.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering is like, why did he think this stuff worked or was he just lying?
I don't know. I mean, I think he's selling his show is about getting people engaged and self-improvement and all that stuff. And maybe he just exaggerated the effects. But you can't say miracle.
No.
Because if it was a miracle, everybody who takes it would go, six-pack, bang.
Yeah.
And that's not real. That's not real.
There's no easy way to lose weight.
No.
Unfortunately.
Maybe the semaglutide shit.
Yeah, tell me about this.
Yeah, this is it's a peptide, I believe, and it's an injectable, I believe. I think they inject it into fat, and I think from what I've understand, I'm butchering this, but Jamie will find out the facts. I think what it does is it suppresses your appetite, and it gives you the sensation that you're full.
Okay.
And the word
forever?
this is the word. I haven't investigated this past discussing it on this podcast. I should be really transparent about that. But people have said that using it is causing them to lose weight, and the narrative is that all these people that are fitness influencers or public people, influencers online that have lost weight are using this semaglutide. Yeah.
That's so shady.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're saying that they use it and promoting that they use it, or if other people are pointing to this is what's causing them to lose weight.
Right.
I don't know that any social media influencers are telling people to take these peptides.
No, I mean, it's shady when you do something like that and then you're like, it's just the squats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And not saying like, this isn't.
Yeah.
It's a Brazilian butt lift also.
Semaglutide, sold under the brand names Wegovy and Ozempic, among others, is an anti-diabetic medication used for the treatment of type 2 diabetes and long-term weight management. What does it do? Once weekly semaglutide in overweight and obesity, semaglutide injection. Go back to that page that you were just on. And what does it say? What does semaglutide do to your body? Click on that. Above that, right there. Semaglutide injection is a class of medications called incretin mimetics. It works by helping the pancreas release the right amount of insulin when blood sugar levels are high. Insulin helps move sugar from the blood into other body tissues where it is used as energy. So is semaglutide good for weight loss? Click on that. Semaglutide treatment effect in people with obesity. Trials have shown the efficacy of semaglutide for the treatment of obesity. In large RCTs, random controlled trials, patients receiving semaglutide 2.4 milligrams lost a mean of 6% of their weight by week 12 and 12% of their weight by week 28. So that's legit. But again, science.
Right.
7 months, though, right? 7 months.
But that's a lot of weight. Losing 12% of your weight. And if you lose, if you're 100 pounds, you're losing 12 pounds in 7 months. 12% of your weight is legitimate. It's not miracle, but it's legitimate weight loss.
12 pounds in 7 months, though? I mean...
12%, not 12 pounds.
Well, if you're 100 pounds. No, if you're 100 pounds, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But this is... I don't know that anybody that's 100 pounds would be taking it. It'd be people that are overweight, though.
Right, but I'm just saying it's 12. That's 12%. I'm just giving you an example of what 12% is. So, weight loss outcomes associated with semaglutide. So that's click on that. JAMA Network weight loss outcomes associated with semaglutide. So key points is treatment with semaglutide associated with weight loss outcomes similar to those seen in results of randomized controlled trials findings. In this cohort study of 175 patients with overweight or obesity, the total weight loss percentage achieved were 5.9% at 3 months and 10.9% at 6 months. Semaglutide treatment in a regular clinical setting was associated with weight loss similar to that seen in randomized clinical trials, would suggest its applicability for treating patients with overweight or obesity.
I mean, they will figure something out eventually, right?
Well, this seems at least to be partially successful.
Yeah.
Objective, study weight loss outcomes associated with semaglutide treatment at doses used in randomized clinical trials for patients with overweight or obesity. Yeah. Okay. So this is a total of 408 patients with body mass index of 27 or more were prescribed weekly semaglutide subcutaneous injections for 3 months or more. Patients with a history of bariatric procedures, taking other anti-obesity medications, and with an active malignment neoplasm were excluded. And the exposures, weekly 1.7 milligrams or 2.4 milligrams semaglutide subcutaneous injections for 3 to 6 months. The main outcomes, that's what we read. So it looks like it does have some efficacy. Yeah.
I feel like they'll find a quick fix.
23% achieved weight loss of 15% or more, and 8% received a weight loss of 20% or more.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So with some people, it's really effective. The results of this cohort study suggest that weekly 1.7 milligram and 2.4 milligram doses of semaglutide were associated with weight loss similar to that seen in randomized controlled clinical trials. So it seems like it works.
Wow.
Studies with longer periods of follow-up are needed to evaluate prolonged weight loss outcomes.
Oh.
I kind of wonder what kind of diet
There's
and
the
working
rub.
out they did.
Well,
too.
the rub is that you have to probably continue using it.
Yeah. What was that, Jamie?
What kind of diet and working out they did during that 6 month period?
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Right. Did they live their life normally and not change anything? Or was this a part of like a overall health plan where they're trying to like improve their health?
Yeah, was this the only thing they did?
Right.
Or were they like, they also made a lot of lifestyle changes that
They
would
ran
cause you
6
to
miles a day and
lose
they only
weight?
ate green vegetables and lean meat and
Last time I was here, we were talking about paternity leave and I was on the fence. And now after having C-section, I am pro paternity leave. At least for a month. I needed help.
No, women most certainly need it.
I freaking needed the help. I couldn't even, you can't lift anything.
Right.
That was one thing that was shocking to me about the recovery from the C-section. That early, like 6 weeks. I didn't, for some reason, because my mom had 5 and I don't remember, and so many kids, I don't remember her being, she was younger though. I don't remember her being so laid up, but it was bad.
Well, any surgery.
Yeah.
Any time you get your body cut like that, like there's a long recovery period.
Yeah.
And especially when you get into your 40s.
Yeah.
It's difficult for your body to respond and recover.
Well, that's the other thing too with like why I tell people don't wait to have the babies, because it gets more dangerous as you get older. And because I'm a geriatric pregnancy, they don't let you like go over your after I think like 40, they don't want you to go over your due date. So a lot of times people will naturally go into labor at like 41 weeks. But when you're a geriatric, they get nervous because the numbers go slightly up of there being a stillborn.
That's a weird word, geriatric.
That's what, after 35.
Isn't that wild?
35. It's not wild, though. It's not wild because it gets much harder. And I feel like there's been a lot of constructive pushback against that kind of narrative that women have been sold, that you can just kind of wait until your late 30s to have kids, because you can't always. You might be able to freeze your eggs and you might be able to take some measures, but it's still much, much harder to get pregnant late 30s, early 40s.
The problem is, like, so many people are just trying to figure out their life. Like, they don't necessarily want to have kids when they're young because they're like, God, I have so many dreams and aspirations.
Of course.
And career stuff.
Trade-offs.
Yeah.
I mean, I
trade-offs.
got lucky. That's it. She truly is like, she might be the last egg that I might go directly into menopause on this podcast. I might. I mean, it was totally a fluke. They told me I could not have kids. I was 42 years old when I got pregnant with her, and I think a large part of the problem too is like people aren't meeting their partners until later as well.
Well, also, like, you don't kind of know who you are until later in life. Like, life is so much more complicated now than when people died at 30.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and people didn't necessarily die at 30 because they died of old age at 30. It's like, when they talk about people dying really young back in the day, a lot of it is infant mortality that has to be factored into the percentage
Of course.
and the age. But, you know, people today are living longer, and a lot of people have careers, and you don't want to sacrifice your career.
But that goes back to my paternity thing. There's not much support.
Right.
Like this is another area where I've become a single issue voter. Who is supporting mothers?
Mm-hmm.
There isn't support for a woman to go have a baby at 30 and come back to her career in a year. We just don't have that kind of support culturally and in a lot of the workplace. It's just not there.
Well, coming back in a year, the problem is if you're a person who's running a business and you have someone that works for you and they're a key part of your business and they go, I want to take a year off. You're like, okay, well, who's going to do that job?
I understand.
And I have to pay you for a year?
I understand. I have a small business, but I still I would want to create a business that supported that. Because it's something Ideally, yes, but that is the kind of, I think, ethos that I would want to create for my business, because I would want to encourage people to have families.
That sounds great, unless you have a business that's like barely getting by.
Right.
And you have an employee, and that employee wants to not work for a year because they want to have a baby. And you're like, what are the trade-offs? Is the trade-off that you get to keep your career and my business is fucked because I have to pay you and you don't work?
Yeah. But are these, I mean, I think more and more of the big corporations are offering.
Corporations.
Yeah. They are offering this kind of stuff.
Well, that's great if you're like, we saw the day in the life of a Twitter employee.
I don't think it should be mandatory.
Have you seen the day in the life of a Twitter employee video?
No.
I posted it.
Oh, well.
But go to Twitter. I posted it today. It's Libs of TikTok.
Right.
This girl who worked at Twitter posted how great it is to work at Twitter. This is a day, and it's wild because it's not a job.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the Project Veritas video where they caught this guy saying that he works 4 hours a month.
Oh, wow. I don't
or
understand
4 hours a week or whatever it was.
I didn't understand why they needed so many people.
They don't. But watch it. Play this because it's kind of...
Welcome to a day in my life as a Twitter employee.
Is this real?
So this past week, went to SF for the first time at a Twitter office, badged in. Honestly, took a moment to just soak everything in. What a blessing. Also started my morning off with an iced matcha from the perch. Then I had a meeting, so quickly scheduled one of these little pod rooms, which were so cool. They're literally noise canceling. Took my meeting, got ready for lunch. Look how delicious this food looks. Oh my goodness, I was so overwhelmed. Then made my way down to this log cabin area. I don't know what this is, but it was really cool. Played some foosball with my friends to kind of unwind a bit.
Unwind. Tough day.
Also found this really cool meditation room that I thought was super neat. I didn't do any yoga, but they have this yoga room if you are a yogi, so also thought that was really cool. Had a couple more meetings in the afternoon, had a ton of projects that we needed to knock out. Say hi to my teammates. Went to the library to kind of get some more work done. Obviously had to have our afternoon coffee, so made some espresso. And then before leaving for the day, had some red wine that's on tap. Went up to the rooftop and just honestly enjoyed the beautiful weather. So awesome trip.
Wow. Amazing. She did one meeting.
That's a 6-figure salary, kids. You could be so lucky to have a job that doesn't really exist, and you get wine on tap, and you get espressos and green matcha tea, and you get to go to the meditation room because you got to unwind.
Well, they can afford to give people a year off then because they clearly don't need them.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should be mandatory. I just think it should be supported.
A year off.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a company like that, it's throwing money away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a mother should. I was back to work at 6 weeks, but I own my own business.
Right.
So, trade-offs.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, do you have the money to take a year off with your own business?
No.
So would a business have the money to allow you to take a year off if they were an employee and they relied on you?
I would. Would my business allow me to take a year off? I feel like I could maybe do it, but I would probably have to fire someone.
Yeah. And then there's the other thing. It's like,
I'm not a big business. Like, I'm not pulling in.
So big businesses should have enough money that they could afford to pay people even if they're not working.
I mean, isn't it supported by the government in places where it's supported? Like in Germany, isn't the government supporting the women taking that year off?
So you think that's what should happen?
I think there should be some support.
Sure. But like for how long? Like maybe a year's not enough. Maybe you should.
No, just a year.
Do you know that at certain businesses, like there's a business, I don't even want to say the name of the business, but my friend works at this business, and they said that male employees get paternity leave of 18 months. Male employees.
What do the females get?
Oh, I don't know. But male employees.
6 months.
So he was saying that, look, conceivably, I could knock my wife up once a year. Not only that, but during that time, your colleagues, if they get raises and advances, you're not supposed to be denied those raises and advances.
Oh, wow.
So you're not working for 18 months. You continue to get raises. And if you knock up your wife again, like a year later, you could have Irish twins, right? A year later, you knock up your wife again. You keep getting money, keep getting raises. All you have to do is keep having babies.
How do you support the family, though? I mean, how do you support not like your family, like the idea of having a family?
What do you mean?
How there's, I think like part of the collapsing birth rates in particular in this country is that there's not much support for people to have families.
Right.
So how do we encourage people to have families and support them, like childcare?
But I'm talking about the most ridiculous aspect.
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, I think my cousin, and I mentioned this last time in Germany, they get a year off, and then he got 9 months off, I think, the male gets.
Canada has a choice between 12 or 18 months.
Wow. For everybody?
I think so.
So is it socialized? It's not. They have socialized healthcare.
Is that government funded?
What jobs? Like for all jobs? So like say if you work for a podcast studio in Canada.
In Austin.
In Canada, because this is not Canada. And is this for the male as well? My friend was talking about how ridiculous it is.
This one actually
Yeah.
says
They were saying I get
maternity leave.
18 months off.
Well, that's
18 months for the man, not for the woman. For the man.
I need help. I need help. I mean,
Well, you get help. The guy's not working. 18 months, and he gets raises.
I would actually.
What if everybody
love
does
that.
it? What if the whole company's like, hey, Bob just got his wife pregnant. That's all you have to do. Parental benefits are paid for a maximum of 35 shared weeks plus 5 weeks of daddy days paid within a year of the birth or adoption of a child. In 2022, the weekly benefit rate is 55% of the parent's average weekly insurable earnings, up to a maximum of $638 a week before taxes. That's not a lot.
Who pays for that?
And the other one was Finland, I think. You get 80% of your pay for 480 days.
Right, but is that
like a year and a half.
mandated for private businesses or is that government employees?
I'm having a hard time getting that actual thing down because
Or is it the government just pays for everybody?
Look, ideally, it would be great if a woman could have a child and still have her career and give her enough time to recover and come back. Sure. Yeah. But, like, at what time? Like, you wouldn't want to come back in 2 years.
My first
2 years, you have a toddler. Like, you want to be home with the kid.
My first two months of like after having the baby, I was like, feminism was a mistake.
How long is paternity leave in the U.S.? In the majority of states across the country, expectant new fathers are entitled to a period of 12 weeks.
That's not
unpaid, job-secured paternity leave.
Yeah,
That's
it's unpaid.
Yeah.
My husband didn't get. He had to take time off.
So that's states. So that's state law. Expectant parents are entitled. But while time off is an expected right in the U.S., unpaid leave is simply too expensive for most families to afford. However, California, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island, motherfucking pop-ups, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Washington, Connecticut, and the District of Columbia have active paid parental leave policies. Other states like Colorado and Oregon have this policy in view, although it is yet to come into effect.
Yeah, and like you have to have a certain number of employees. So my husband wasn't eligible because the business wasn't eligible because they didn't have. You have to have, I think, like 50 employees or something like that.
So they figure once you have 50 employees, there's enough money rolling around that you can get to give people time off.
I mean, a month would have been nice.
It's nice. Yeah, it'd be great.
I didn't need much, but it's definitely, I needed help with, you need a lot of help when you have that new baby.
Federal employees receive 12 weeks of paid time off following childbirth or the placement of a child for adoption or foster care. These employees must have worked 12 months in part-time or full-time role in federal service. That's federal employees.
God, that's not that much.
It's not that much. No,
I was
compared to other countries.
No, you're just kind of, that fourth trimester is really something I wish I had known more about before it was one of those things that they say, like, the fourth trimester is that first 3 months when you're postpartum, and it's gnarly. You're like recovering, you're trying to manage the baby.
And the baby's not sleeping, and you're not sleeping because the baby's not sleeping.
No, and colic. I mean, God bless anyone out there who had a child with colic. You only know if you know, but that was so.
Explain colic to people.
So it's inconsolable. There's actually like a rule of threes. I'm writing a whole piece about it because it was so mind-blowing. But it's inconsolable crying for no apparent reason. The baby is okay. They're healthy. It's just a lot of people say it's witching hour, but colic is specific in that they say it's the rule of threes, more than 3 hours of crying a day, at least 3 days a week for at least 3 weeks. And if your baby's doing that, then they probably have colic. And my child started crying around 4 weeks, and that's generally around when it will start or appear. And it was like 6 weeks of it.
And it's hours of crying?
Hours.
And you comfort them?
And there's
doesn't
no
matter,
console.
Nothing you can do?
It's so heartbreaking as a new parent. It's like, I don't know how, first of all, any single parent out there, male, female, who's doing this, I don't know how you do it. You deserve awards and accolades. And I don't know how anyone single does this because I could not have done it. I mean, maybe I could have, but it was my husband and I had to tag out. The piece I'm writing, when I went down the rabbit hole of colic, I was like, oh my God, they use inconsolable crying babies in Guantanamo to train the operatives to like resist torture, essentially. And that's one of the things they were using.
How do they do that?
They would play crying babies. They would play recordings of babies crying inconsolably for hours.
Yeah, but that's not the same as an actual baby, especially a baby that's yours.
I know,
you have this,
but it still drives people insane.
Attachment. Oh, okay.
It's still something that drives people crazy.
Oh, so you're saying they do that instead of torture?
They do it to. It's one of the things they use as torture to train these people to resist it.
I see what you're saying.
Because I'm like, this is crazy. It was so. We would have to take shifts, and every night you get anxious, and it's hard as a new parent because you feel like a failure. You're just like I also think it's kind of a good hazing into parenthood where you're like, there's some things that are just out of my control.
Right.
But it's a whole thing. I didn't know what it was, and I'd like heard about it, and then people in my life who had it were like, I said something on Twitter, and someone was like, I was like, anyone have any suggestions? And someone was like, I read this to my husband and he shuddered. Like people who dealt with it have PTSD from it because it's so disturbing just day after day. Yeah. It's hard. That was hard. That was definitely a fourth trimester, and thank God. And my husband was around at night, so thank God.
The shift of who you are as a person after you have a child is a very dramatic, physical, psychological, emotional. It's in your DNA. There's a shift. And that's why people freak out about people who don't have children, trying to come up with ideas for what should happen to children.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Mama Bear definitely is a real thing, despite what they might say.
It's real.
I understand. That's why I was saying at the beginning, I just have eaten so much humble pie. There's so many people in my. I was so. It's so cliche. Like I was so self-centered, and when I was pregnant, I'm like, why didn't I listen? And sure, it wasn't applicable to me, but why didn't I pay attention when my sisters and sister-in-laws and all of my relatives and cousins were talking about what they went through when they had their child, whether they had a C-section or a vaginal birth. I know they told me these stories, and I was just not paying attention at all. And then I was like, tell me all your stories. I need everything. And on Instagram at night with Pregxiety, just trying to calm myself down and feeling really like just a piece of shit. Just a piece of shit. Because in so many ways, I really was just like that cliche Gen Xer who kind of was apathetic about all of it and was like, I whatever, you don't know until you know. And I know that I can take a nap. And it's like, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
There's nothing like it.
Well, I look forward to your new perspectives. I'm looking forward to your writing, and it's just a new way you approach things in your podcast. Because whenever someone encounters just a radical change in the way they see the world, it's always fascinating for people whose opinions I value, and for people that have unique perspectives.
I wrote this piece, I Regret Being a Slut, recently, and it went huge. And it's tapped into something, and people were like, oh, this is because you had a baby. And I'm like, no, I was regretting it before I had kids. But I wanted to say it was something, there was one of your bits that you used to do all the time, and I'm not sure if you
No, I don't do that bit anymore.
It was about being a slut. And every time you did it, I would be like, I had to leave once and go to the bathroom when you're doing it because I felt so... I was like, what is coming up for me? I had to talk to my therapist about it. I'm like, there's this bit, and every time he does it, I'm like, what? And we talked through it, and it was that was coming up, was like this regret about being a slut that I didn't feel like culturally I should have. There's so much like slut walk and like be a proud slut, and just that is the culture that I came up in. Free the nipple we talked about. A lot of the choices I made where I felt so much shame and regret about, and I just want to say thank you for that bit. Because that was kind of the beginning of being able to crack. Because I'm not like one of those people who sees something in comedy that I don't like and I'm like, you're an asshole. If something comes up for me, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What's that reaction all about? And I ended up writing this piece because Louise Perry wrote a book, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, and it kind of framed what I had been feeling, and it's brilliant. I think she's so brave for even writing it because I feel like there is a lot of us like geriatrics or maybe later millennials, some Gen Xers who came up through the sexual revolution and were sold this idea of like, you can have sex like a guy, and there's no consequence. And we're coming back, we're like, it's a trap. Go back.
Well, the weird thing that happened was the birth control pill.
Yeah. Technology.
There's many things that were weird about it. And one of the weird ones is it convinced your body that you were pregnant.
Yeah.
Which is really wild.
It is.
The fact that we're talking about introducing hormones into a person's body, introducing hormones on a regular basis to a giant swath of the female population, it shifts the way you view people, the way you see things, everything. You view the world in a different way. And they've done studies that shows that it changes how a woman is attracted to different men.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. I hated the pill. I hated it. It made me insane.
A guy that I know, his daughter died from blood clots when she was on the pill.
Was she smoking?
Yes.
Oh, they warn you about that.
Yeah. Smoking and the pill, there's something about the combination of the two.
Wow, that's horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hated it. Every time I went on it, I was a lunatic. I hated it. I hated the way it made me feel. I never really liked it, but it unyoked sex from consequence for the first time. And
in human history.
Yeah. And like I said in this piece, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think I like being able to have a job and buy a house. Feminism is good, but this aspect of the sexual revolution in particular, I feel like has left a lot of women feeling empty and like something is missing and that they've been sold a bit of a lie, years down the road when...
Do you think it's like a thing like why do men get to live life like this where they are free of consequences? Why can't I live like this? And then people just sort of reinforce that.
I mean, Louise Perry was funny when she came on my podcast. She said, if you want to get mad at someone for being a misogynist, get mad at Mother Nature.
Wow.
Yeah, she's brilliant. And I think her book gave people like me who felt that way. Like I was saying, hers is pretty academic, and I was saying in my piece, like it's the conversation is a little bit like those sluts over there, not. And that book affected me, like the whatever, like the part where you say who the book is for. Mom brain.
Yeah.
She said for the women who learn the hard way, and I read it and I just burst into tears. It made, pregnancy hormones too, but that to me, I learned the hard way. And the emails I've got from people from that piece, women and men, gay men, it's been really crazy, like really overwhelming actually, and remarkable just how much of an actual body count there is in this wake.
How much you love writing?
I do.
And that's probably one of the reasons why you love writing, that you could write a piece and it can have this sort of profound effect where people they read and it resonates with how they feel about stuff.
I love it for two reasons. That being one, because I've really been thinking a lot about the why of why I do things. I love podcasting because I love connecting to people. I love comedy because I love hearing people laugh. It's like making my daughter laugh is the best thing in the entire world. And laughter is just so contagious and healing. And I love writing because a lot of the time there's some wisdom in my fingers and I don't always know where I'm going with a piece. It took me years to write that piece, I Regret Being a Slut. I was going to write it back in 2018 and I couldn't really frame it the right way. That book helped me frame it. And I also had enough time to sit and think and have podcast conversations about it, where I think a lot of the thinking that we do in this is in real time. You know,
Yeah.
you're just like working stuff out.
Right.
And people need space to do that.
Yeah.
They need to be able to work out their ideas, have their ideas challenged. And writing is where I get to sit down and really try and be thoughtful about a lot of the information that I might have been taking in. And yeah, there is still something that is resonant about it. And I like the idea that it's kind of like time traveling. Like somebody could read that and I'd be dead. And they'd be brought back to another time. That's how reading always feels to me. You can go into science fiction or the future or the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think of all the things I do, that one comes the most naturally. But that's why I'm excited to have started like Substack, where I feel like I can lean into that more. It forces me to produce.
No, that's awesome. Bridget, I appreciate you very much.
I
You're
love you.
awesome. I love you to death.
Thank you.
Tell people how they can watch your stuff, read your stuff.
You can find me on Substack, Bridget Phetasy. You can find me on YouTube. Please, everybody, go subscribe to my YouTube channel and prove these people wrong. It's at Phetasy, and Dumpster Fire's there. You can find my podcast, Walk-Ins Welcome, anywhere podcasts are available. And you can find me on Twitter and now Instagram. I
Yay.
see you're on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram.
You love it.
I'm on Twitter now, too.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back.
All
I'm
right.
posting now that it's free.
Hell yeah.
Comedy's now legal on Twitter.
Woohoo!
Elon Musk. Woo! Bye, everybody.
Bye.